So much fun. So much fun. Okay. Let's see if I've got audio. Let's see if I've got video. Is it happening? Is it not? Hang on. Yep, I got video. I got audio. It's the Nazarite Brigadier Hebrew lore from days of yore. To those who are celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays to everyone else. It's such a lovely privilege to be here with you. It is 10 a.m. Thursday morning in Jerusalem. I'm feeling so good right now. It is awesome to be here. Yesterday, the day before, was a lovely chat. So much going on. And I'm going to dive into the questions. One person is here. Hello. Two people are here. Hello, two people. So I'm going to be answering any questions that come along. And this time I'll do it a bit differently. Instead of going one by one in the chat, I'm going to answer a question if any arrive, and I'll just go into the next question that's wherever it is in the chat right now, rather than going one by one. So, okay, it's just a sweater. I don't celebrate Christmas. Okay, so there were some questions from the day before, and the day before, right? Yesterday and the day before. Scott Van Well asked, what do you write? So I'm a screenwriter by trade, but I'm a copywriter. I write content, I write blogs, I maintain different e-commerce pages for different companies. So that's what I'm doing, copywriting for e-commerce. Are you an actor as well, he asks. No, I am not an actor, although I have acted in a few things in my life. Nothing on stage. I've been in a commercial or two, nothing national, just things online. And I was in a play or two being projected on a screen, right, as part of a multimedia thing. So I have acted, but I am not a trained actor, so no. Diddy Kenny asks, are you male Rapunzel? Well, I've never been locked in a tower, so I guess I'm not, right? I don't have a stepmother. So no, I'm not the male Rapunzel, but I have laid down my hair. So in that sense, she and I, right, we are alike. GC Spike asked, is Genesis related to all humankind, or is it only the history of Hebrews? Right, so I don't treat the Torah as a book of history as such. It's not like it's an academic textbook of history. I do treat it, however, as a sacred text coming down from the spiritual, right, in physical form here, in a book, in a scroll, whatever it is, and that it relates to people at large, and to the Hebrews in particular. So it's both. You can see it as a book that has some history in it, but it's definitely not like a history textbook that can be followed precisely. There are different things that may or may not have happened. There are contradictions. There are accounts of things that people say did occur, did not occur. You know, the scholars, the historians, people in academia, the ones who really know what they're talking about as far as research is concerned, they are in debate over things that happened or didn't happen. It's related to all humankind because it begins with the story of creation. But it's also the history of the Hebrews in the sense because it's dealing primarily with the Israeli tribes, right? The tribes of Israel. Okay, let's continue. Chapinov1492 asked, or said, not all Christians believe that the Old Testament is null and void, and we know God is not finished with his Jewish people. I'm half Jewish. Well, I wonder, half mother, father, because that changes. Biblically, it's through the father. Halachically, nowadays, it's through the mother. And you can't be half Jewish usually. You either go with what the Bible says or go with what halacha nowadays says. But it's a problem being half Jewish, because I mean, if you're going with the strict halacha, there's no such thing as a half Jew. But I understand what you mean. So he says, not all Christians believe that the Old Covenant is null and void. The thing is that a lot of Christians that I've met and followers of Jesus that I've met are saying that it's up to the Jews to accept Jesus and all that. And I'm obviously not going to do that. But it's that idea of, the Hebrews are waiting for the anointed king. The Christians say, no, he already arrived, but he's supposed to come back. But many Christians and followers of Jesus have told me to accept Jesus because he is the fulfillment of the Torah, and he is, and and because he died for everyone's sins and suffered on the cross and so on, then we don't need the Sabbath, we don't need covenant of circumcision, we don't need to keep kosher, we don't need to keep anything else of the old ways, and we could simply be saved by Jesus, right? And through the Son, getting to know the Father, that whole thing. Too many Christians that I've met have said this exact thing, right? That the Torah is done, and that so God is not finished with his Jewish people. Even some Christians would probably agree with that, but then it's a question of where do they stand. If they're saying that the Torah is still binding, then they should go according to it. But if they're saying it's not binding, then that contradicts the entire premise of the Torah as a book that is binding for the Hebrews who are following it. It's not binding for the rest of the nations. It's a book of laws and commandments and so on given to the Hebrew people. The only commandments that apply to the nations at large is what is called the 7 laws of sons of Noah, or the Noahide laws. Nice sweater, LOL. Thank you, thank you. Son of a nutcracker. I've never seen the movie Elf, actually, but I enjoy Will Ferrell's work, the things that I've seen, and yeah, it's just a sweater. Guard Force 4951, how are you? Happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas if you keep that holiday, if you observe it. 6 people here, 1 like. Hooray, hi, hello people, tell me, where are you at? What are you up to? Are you in a holiday mood? Did you celebrate Hanukkah? Are you celebrating Christmas? Let's continue with the chat from yesterday. Bailey Woods asked, can I take the Nazarite vow even though I am a Christian American? So American or not, you can take the Nazarite vow. The Nazarite vow, as it's brought down, was given to the Hebrew people, to the children of Israel, men and women of the Hebrew tribes. So if you're a Christian, you can take a vow before God like any other human, but the laws of the Nazariteship, the halachas of the Nazariteship, do not apply to you. In other words, you can say, as a human being standing in the image of God in front of your Creator, I vow to keep these rules as they are set out in the Hebrew Bible. And that could be binding to you because you made a vow with your lips earnestly, with your intent and with your mind and your heart into it. But do the laws of the Nazariteship apply to you? No. It means that you can make that vow null and void whenever you want, right? You can undo the vow, as it were, whenever you want. And nothing will apply to you as far as the Jewish law is concerned because you're not Jewish. So you can take a vow like any other vow, but technically speaking, the Nazariteship was given to the Hebrew people. But I've met many people from Christianity, followers of Jesus, who say that they took on this vow, and I tell them, okay, it's not a Hebrew Nazariteship, but it's a vow that you took before God based on a Bible that you believe in, and if you go into that commitment with truth and with righteousness and with that idea of dedication, consecration, shooting for that ideal of being of service and of making yourself, right, setting yourself apart for a time or for life, in order to become a better person, then yes, that's a good thing. Overall, that's a good thing. It can definitely be a good thing. Yes, I'm celebrating Christmas doing karaoke. Hey, good for you. Are you doing karaoke at a bar? Are you at a place dedicated to karaoke? Are you just at home? Pink Fur says, yikes, indeed. Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. So, can you take the vow? Yes, but it's not a proper Nazarite's vow because you're not a Hebrew person, right? It can be a regular vow as any human being can make before their Creator, and in that sense, it is binding to the degree that you are bound by it. You could make your own decisions. There are different halachas and rulings on what it means to take a vow, right? What it means to have an oath, to take an oath. JTV says, I'm using you as entertainment while I poop. How does that feel? That feels great. It feels great to poop, and I'm happy to facilitate your poopage. Hopefully I'll give you a laugh while you're doing it. Well, this was yesterday, but hopefully I gave this person a laugh while they were dropping the kids off at the pool, while they were backing one out, while they were laying in a little cable. What's going on here? Are you the devil? Yes, I am the devil. I am the adversary. I am the fallen one. I am the morning star. What's going on here? Just talking about faith, spirituality, religion, self-development, and other shenanigans. Feel free to join us. Nijid one. Feel free to join. Bro needs a comb. Nope, it's not allowed. The Nazarite is not allowed to use any tools. No comb, no brush. You are allowed to use your hands in order to manipulate the hair gently, but you're not allowed to rip out hairs intentionally. You're not allowed to comb it. You're not allowed to brush it. But you are allowed to maintain it and separate if you want with the tips of your fingers. Justin Vance 5137 says, I'm Australian, and I'm sorry that our government let Australian Jews down in regard to the Bondi incident. Well, look, even if you're a government, you can't handle everything all the time. So do you mean that you are sorry that it even happened? Or do you mean that the incident happened and then the government dropped the ball? Because it's my understanding, unless I'm mistaken, that the two shooters have been in Australia for a long time, and only now did they go and pursue this path of terrorism. Allergic iOS, I live in Sydney, Australia, and I'm very disappointed with what happened in Bondi Beach. Many Australians are. I was speaking to an Australian the other day in the chat who said that there's not a lot of anti-Semitism in Australia. And sure, relatively speaking, there isn't a lot of anti-Semitism in Australia, but there is still plenty that goes on because wherever there are Jews, there will be people who hate them. It's baked right into the world, be it the ancient world or the modern world. And some people say it's the Jews' fault. Some people say it's the Jews' curse, right? Because we always have the Gentiles to remind us that we are not like them. We have the Gentiles, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way, right? The nations, the other nations, to remind us of our job, of what we are supposed to do. We arrive at our fate, right? We all have our dharma, as it's known, and we either find it through love or through suffering. And many times, the Torah says the same thing, right? Your life can be a blessing or a curse depending on your actions. It's shocking what religion does to people's minds, says Vejike. Yes, I agree. Religion, more specifically organized religion, does have the potential to be very, very, very mind-warping and mind-bending, and not in a good way. It can also have a good way, right? It's two sides of the same coin, meaning you could have people who go completely nuts and who do stupid things in the name of God, and you have people who elevate themselves and those around them and who do wonderful and noble things in the name of God, enlightening things that make the world a better place. And you can't have the good without the bad, right? You can't have light without a shadow. Ben Sheffield 420 or 420 says, why do people hate Jews? So it's been debated, but basically, the Jew is seen as an outsider in all things, right? If they integrate, then they say, no, 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 you're not like us. If they don't integrate, they say, why don't you integrate? If they're in a different nation, they say, go back to your home. If we are in our ancestral home, they say, go back to where you came from, right? If they're rich, they say, why aren't you poor? And if they're poor, they're saying, why aren't you rich? There's always reasons to hate the Jew, be it industry, be it ideology, faith, right? Religion, the way that the Jews separate themselves, and sometimes it's forced upon them, because even in the days of the Enlightenment in Europe, there was still, oh no, you're trying to be like us, but you're still just a Jew. So I can't tell you exactly why. You'll have to take it on a case-by-case basis. Why do you think people hate Jews? Do let me know in the comments. Justin Van says, our government has let Australian Jews down by letting people protest, spreading hate, and letting people live in our country, and their views to kill Jews disgusting. Well, that's the tension between freedom of speech and hate speech, as it's known, or violence-inciting speech, because that's not the same thing. No, I don't know how the Australian government was handling the protests. I know that already there have been so many pro-Palestinian, pro-terrorism, pro-Hamas protests all over the world, it seems. Australia and Europe, not the least of them. Spreading hate and letting people live in our country. Right, letting a ton of people into different countries that don't align with that country's values and don't want to integrate into the culture, don't want to be assimilated into the people, and they keep their views, and more so, moreover, they're trying to force their views on the people who lived there first. And unfortunately, with the progress of the generations, we'll see just how demography has its say in what goes on there. Nijid says, religion is poison, life's too short, we need peace, goddammit. I agree. Some religious elements can be poisonous and toxic, and some can be very ennobling. I've said this many times before. Even in modern-day organized religion, you can find a lot of merit, because it's not a small thing. It's no small thing to take yourself and put yourself under the discipline of an organized religion, right? Follow a path. Commit to something. That takes a lot. Now, you could say there's a hierarchy of religions. These are better than those, and, these are better than... But still, it's as an idea of taking a yoke and putting it on your back and carrying a burden of discipline, that has a lot of good attributes. That has a lot of good elements to it. And so if you do it with truth and justice and righteousness, you are able to gain a lot. You are able to do a lot. You're able to spread light within yourself. And by definition, right, by virtue that's of doing that, you become a better person and a blessing to others. Do all Jews have dreads? No, most of the Jewish people do not have dreads. I took a Nazarite's vow, and even though the Nazarite is allowed to separate the hair with their fingers, I decided to just let it grow wild, as it says in the Torah, Gadel pera se'ar rosho. That's the Hebrew. Allergic says, as a Palestinian supporter, I believe that we shouldn't harm Jews in any way, no matter your political opinion. Okay, well, let's put it this way. Well, good. It's good to support one and still understand that you shouldn't harm the other. And yes, we need peace, right? Just like Nijid said, we need peace, goddammit. It's on us to bring it about. It's on us to make it happen. It really is on us. Buddha invites questions. Well, Buddha means enlightened one, and I might be on the way, Yak59, but I'm certainly not enlightened enough. I am inviting questions because this is a Q&A. It's what it's all about. Fuck Israel, you lying fuck, stealing from Palestinians, MDLD24. Well, that is completely false. Nobody has stolen anything. You can't steal a land that you were a part of. Now, as for certain settlements, I'm inclined to agree that there is an element of theft there, but those are really the outlying settlements and have nothing to do with Israel. There's no such people as Palestinians. There were people who lived here, make no mistake, but Palestinians were also Jews. While the British Mandate of Palestine was going on, the Jews had Palestinian passports too. What happened? Oh, it's shocking. People seem to forget that. Love is for everyone, says Ben Sheffield. Agreed. Very much agreed. We are Charlie Kirk, he says. So you know what? I've only seen his debates. I don't know him as a person. But I didn't know him at the time as a person. But from what I've gathered, even though he may have seemed harsh and rough around the edges, at least he was a person who believed in debate, dialogue, discourse. And from what I've gathered, even though he had a few gotcha moments, he did do it altogether respectfully. He was actually open to listening to the other side, presenting them perhaps with tough questions, but nevertheless listening to them, giving them the time, the patience to speak. And he wasn't he wasn't kind of a holier-than-thou individual. He really did listen. He had his opinions. Some would say extremely conservative opinions. Fair enough. People have opinions. He was able to give the other person always a chance to explain their position and give their argument, right, in a coherent way. And he would even agree with them on certain things and try to find common ground. No one can own land. I agree, Tycho Val. The land belongs to the Creator, right? In that sense, the land belongs to the Creator. Some people merit it, some people don't merit it. It's all a question of now what, right? And the Israelis aren't going anywhere. The so-called Palestinian people, the ones who lived here, are not going anywhere. We need to make peace. We need to build bridges, and that means de-radicalizing. It means de-radicalizing both sides, right? It means taking the extreme religious element out of both sides, being able to build some bridges. Greetings from South Africa. Merry Christmas, Gus Gus, 1991. Greetings to you, and Merry Christmas to those who celebrate Christmas. I'm sad he got assassinated, said Ben Sheffield. He did listen. You seem like a great guy to sending... a great guy. Thank you. Appreciate it. Positively Christmas vibes. Positive to all. I don't celebrate Christmas, but I love the sweater. Firas says, last night I had a very vivid dream where I reconciled own wounds with my deceased younger sister. It was very emotional. Was this just my body releasing stored trauma, or is this a dream from God? So here's the deal. I can't tell you which one it was, but you should treat it as either or. Actually, rather, you should treat it as both, because you can't have an entirely divine sort of dream, and you sometimes have dreams that come just from the psyche, but that have a very, very significant element to them, meaning that you should just go with whatever is making you feel the best. Have a great day. Nice talking with you, Ben Sheffield. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Do you like Trump? Do I like him? I don't know him. He's not my president because I don't live there. but I know that he has been living up to certain things that he said he would do, at least in the sense of foreign affairs to do with Israel. In that sense, I do like him, but I don't know him as a person. I don't know him as a politician or a businessman, for that matter. I know that people say like he's a like an egomaniac, but I think that the U.S. was tired of politicians and needed a change, and he was that change. I think electing Trump twice simply showed that the American people are that split up, and they are pushing back against the mainstream political parties. Even though he is Republican, many Republicans are anti-Trump as well, from what I've gathered. Now, as for the dream, Firas, let's go back to that dream. I'm really, really happy that you were able to reconcile old wounds with your deceased younger sister. That must have affected you really deeply. I can't imagine what it's like to lose a younger sister. I'm sure it was very emotional. I've had emotional dreams. I say that if you are unsure on whether it's your body releasing trauma or a dream from God, let's say, of a divine origin, I think that you should not rush to answer the question. I think you should simply try to integrate the dream, and you will see over the proper course of time whether it was something divine with some divine instruction, or whether it was your body, right, your psyche releasing trauma. Either way, the fact that it was very emotional means that you should stop and think about it and integrate it, meditate on it, pray on it, and perhaps ask the Most High God for clarification in future dreams or in waking visions. And I think that in time you will be able to see which one it was. And let's even say that you don't. Right? You'll never know if it was just your psyche releasing trauma, your body somatically releasing trauma, or like a dream from God. You'll never know if it was some sort of a divine instruction or injunction. That's good enough. To have that dream, to reconcile the wounds, to have that emotion stir up inside of you, that means a lot. And it's not about God right now, right? It's about you. So I say take it that way. Merry Christmas from Australia, says Steve Ellis 67. Indeed, indeed. I pray to Hashem, says Spamasaurus. Indeed, Hashem means the name. Now, I'm not fond of saying Hashem because I think that if you're going to use God's name, that you should use a name and know which one to use. But many people say that in order to show respect for the name of God, and God has many names, that you should say Hashem. But I'm very much of the opinion that you should be aiming towards a specific name, a certain divine attribute. But I understand all those who say Hashem, of course. My favorite goy, says Press W Bots. What? Yoda POV says Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to those who celebrate Christmas. Fira says, is the Garden of Eden on earth or is it spiritual? So it's both, right? You can say it was a physical place. The 4 rivers are mentioned there. Africa is mentioned by name, also called Kush or Ethiopia, right? It's mentioned by name. On the other hand, we know that there's a metaphysical, spiritual element there. There was a talking serpent. There was this idea of creation. There was this idea of a place where we were able to look and see before we were able to look and see, right? Because we had Adam and Eve, as it were, Adam and Chava, talking to God, to the revelation of the Most High, and looking around. On the other hand, it said that only after they partook of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil were their eyes open. And so you must ask, what eyes were they using before their eyes were open? Is it merely allegory? Is this idea of from the metaphysical becoming physical, or from the spiritual becoming physical? All of these planes of existence exist in parallel with ours. It's a question of expanding our mind, expanding our consciousness, expanding our vision, opening our eyes. And in that sense, yes, it was a physical place, it is a metaphysical place, it is a spiritual place, but even if it was none of those things, Eden is something that we can go back to, right? It's a state of mind. It's a way of being in the world. And for me, it means being able to be naked and vulnerable, if not actually devoid of clothing. It means being open to the world, being naked and vulnerable just like they were, and they were not ashamed. It means being vegan, because the earth and its creatures were created vegan, according to the book of Genesis. Right? If you look into it, maybe I'm interpreting it, but it definitely was the case. And that idea of no faiths, no cultures, no different tongues, no religions, it's just mankind, nature, Eden. A place that everyone comes together, right, in the revelation of God, is just there walking among the creation. That's Eden. So even though we can't actually practically get there Um, every single one of us all the time. We're not there yet. We were cast out. That is still a place we are supposed to go back to. We have the tree of life to partake of, right? Put under guard, but never forbidden, which means that we still have a job to do. We have a mission to accomplish. We will do it, God willing, in time. We will merit coming together as a unified human species, just like we were in the beginning. And this time, when we go back there to the path of the tree of life, we will have earned it through suffering and through love. Biblical and Islamic sources, say Firas, have mixed opinions. P.S. Thank you for the input. The dream was as vivid as being awake in my day-to-day. I feel better. I'm glad you feel better. It's really, really important. Seriously important. Now, dreams, on the one hand, you should really contemplate them, and on the other hand, you shouldn't give them too much because a dream is still a dream, which is why you asked, is it from God or is it just my body and my psyche? And I say you should give it time if you're unsure and integrate it and see where it takes you. Hi there, says Top Fight Security Craig. Hey, Top Fight Security Craig, how you doing? Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, says Wyatt Dunmeyer. Dunmeyer's a great name. Where's the frisbee you normally wear? Frisbee? I wear a frisbee? I'm not sure. Alim Noyes 6718. I wear a frisbee? I'm not sure if I wear a frisbee. Interesting. Press WBot says, give me a scripture from the Talmud, my Shabbos. Talmud, my Shabbos? What does that mean? Well, Talmud is not scripture. Big, big difference, right? Scripture is not Torah, right? We have the 5 books of Moses, that's Torah. We have the prophets, that's a divine revelation of prophecy, and we have the writings and the scrolls, which are a divine revelation of lower prophecy called Spirit of Sacredness or Holy Spirit, not the same as the Christian one, but it's right, a little different. Vitamin B12 is never inside the flesh of a plant. I supplement with B12 on a regular basis because I'm vegan. I draw blood and do a blood test once a year because I want to keep up on it, right? For a while, a few months ago, I was low on vitamin D. I supplemented vitamin D. I knew, right, 15 years ago, I went from vegetarian to vegan, and I knew if I'm going to do it this time, I'm going to do it right, which means that I do a blood test every year, I supplement what I need to supplement, I try to keep on top of my diet, but I'm not denying the fact that you need to do it properly or you will become malnourished very, very quickly. And some of these vitamins are crucial, right? Some of them are essential, some are non-essential in the sense that you can produce them or not produce them naturally in the body. You definitely need to watch your diet when you're a vegetarian or a vegan or a raw vegan. I've been talking with a fruitarian in the recent couple of days, and eating only fruit. What a concept. Raw veganism is where I'm shooting for eventually, but for now, I don't think for me it's sustainable. So veganism alone will have to do. Definitely. Okay, does God have a physical body or is he a spirit? He is not a body or a spirit. Body and spirit are things we humans use, concepts in order to understand divine revelation and to understand how we act with each other in the world, right? But God has none of those things. No eyes, no ears, no mouth, no nose, no hand, no finger. All of these times in the Bible where it says this or that about God, it's all revelations of God. So the rule is, if I can conceptualize it, if I can think about it, if I can imagine it, if I can perceive it with any one of my senses, it is already not God. Because it's something that I can perceive, and if I can perceive it, it's immediately not God, but a revelation of God. I've likened it many times to standing in front of a mirror, and the reflection is perfect. And right now when I'm looking into my phone and I see myself there, it's a pretty perfect pixelated reflection of me. And yet, even though the external is near perfect, it doesn't say anything about me inside. Not my inner organs, not my soul, not my psyche, not my mind. And so you can only see so much from a reflection. And it might be a pretty accurate reflection, but you still need to figure out what's inside. In the very same way, we get to know the Creator through the divine revelation. I don't know God. I don't know the first thing about God. I don't know anything about God. All I know is how God reveals himself to me, right? Through the tree of life, through the 10 Sfirot, through the commandments, through the Torah, through nature, through these interactions that I'm having with you. These are all revelations of the Most High God, right? Nomadic diet? I don't know what a nomadic diet is. I go with a vegan diet, hey man dude. But I don't know. Your hair is not perfect, says Happy Butthole. That's a great name, man. No, my hair is not perfect. It's simply organic Nazarite freeform dreadlocks. That's all it is. OMG, I just farted, Andrew Knox says. Well, was it an SBD? Silent but deadly. Was it a Yusuf, as it's known? Like a Was it a really, really smelly one? Was it just like a joyous little fart? Or was it like a malevolent kind of beast escaping from your anus? Oh man. Also, Andrew Knox, what did you eat? All right? What did you eat? It comes into the question. Shower time, Jew, says Poison Toad W5P. There are some really nice, beautiful looking poisonous toads in the Amazon rainforests. Shower time. Well, not right now. Not right now. I'm in the middle of a live stream. You want me to shower right now? YouTube will definitely have a problem with that. Apparently, if you... Hey, KJB is here in the house. Nice to see you again, man. Apparently, if you eat lentils together with bread, your body synthesizes B12 from the combo. Yes, you can bring things and make synthesis out of them, for sure. You can have complete proteins. You can have complete full-spectrum nutrient intake with a vegan diet. However, it needs to be really, really thought out and planned. Now, mind you, I don't do this. I'm a hummus trina, kind of guy. I've got that running in my veins. However, people who are vegan, people who are vegetarian, people who are raw vegan, they need to put a lot of mind, a lot of thought, a lot of contemplation into how it is that they use their body and how they replenish all of the nutrients and how they do it, because you can get really, really sick really, really fast. Hello. I pooped and have no toilet paper, says Wentworth Pond. Well, that's what your socks are for, man. Be creative. Damn, I gotta explain everything to people. This guy. Hey, man, dude, says this guy's sense of humor is peak. Well, you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh, because if you don't, you'll cry. So, sometimes there are times for tears and there are times for laughter, and more often than not, it's a time for laughter. This is so bad, says Ash Elmian. Yes, it is. It's so bad that you're gonna cry. See, and we're back to square one there. I'm from, is it Cincinnati or Connecticut? It's either Connecticut or Cincinnati. Hey, man, dude. You can't have a hairbrush, though. No, Roy Bentley, I don't brush my hair. I don't comb my hair. I don't separate recently as well, much to the chagrin of my woman. Imagine being a white Eastern European and pretending to be Middle Eastern, said Michael2514. Well, I am a Jew from the kingdom of Judah, living in Judea. How much more born and raised here, how much more Middle Eastern am I going to get? Also, white European people can also convert and they become 100% Jew. So it really, really makes no difference. And I'm not pretending to be Middle Eastern. I literally am Middle Eastern. It's where I am. It's where I'm born and raised. So it's part of my culture. Anonymous HF5DT says, I ripped a whole 8-ball. Am I cooked? Yeah, definitely cooked. But, well, you should take care of that, I'm saying. You should just take care of it. You inspire me to be gay 100%, says Taven Morris. I'm happy. You should be out of the closet, openly gay, do what you want. It's the way to be.
That's supposed to be like a troll.
Oh, I'm definitely. Chrissy the Boxer says Israel was.
It's a girl thing.
Israel was created by Zionists. No, Israel is a tribe. Israel is a place. Israel is a people. Israel is a state of mind. Israel is a spiritual thing in physical form over here. The state of Israel, the modern day state of Israel, was created by Zionists, some of them modern and some of them biblical, right? But basically all saying, this is our ancestral home. We're gonna go back there. That's where we were. That's where we're going back to. And the question of God mandated and not godly mandated, that's a question that's still ongoing. Are you Rastafari? No, but the Rastafarians base part of their faith and their hair on the vow of the Nazarite, and I am a Hebrew Nazarite. So in that sense, there is a Rasta connection to the Nazariteship, but Rastas worship Rastafari, right? His emperor, his imperial majesty, as God incarnate, and Jews do not believe in a God incarnate, and so that's where we differ. Well, that's least of which, but they do take vows, they do grow out their hair, they have an Aital way of living, very much akin to kosher, vegetarian, vegan way of living. So there is a Rasta Nazarite connection, a Rasta Hebrew connection for that matter, because they say that they are of the tribe of Judah. The Rastas claim that King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba had a baby together and then went off to Africa, and that's where, right, the Rastas claim origin. Oh shit, Osama's still alive, says Jigafra. Yeah, I've been called Osama before. I don't think he had hair like this. Maybe he had a similar beard. He definitely did not have my schnoz, all right? The schnoz is mine. Give me my schnoz. It's not an Osama schnoz, or it's a Mordechai schnoz. So, let me have that. I live in Edgware. Edgware? Says, hey, Ryan Gradwell, 2260. Edgware, where's that? There's lots of Jewish people. Well, there are Jews everywhere, sometimes more, sometimes less. It really does depend on where you are. Victory asks, when you read Isaiah 53, do you see Yeshua HaMashiach? No, I don't. I don't think that Isaiah 53, whether in or outside of context, is about Yeshua as Messiah. I think that all of the prophets are pointing back to the law of Moses. All of the prophets, all of the writings and the scrolls, all of them are pointing back towards Torah, which means that you don't go and you make Torah null and void, believing that there is a God incarnate, a Son of God. No such thing according to the Torah. Meaning, even if you attribute certain divine revelation in Isaiah 53 to a specific person, and that's not necessarily the case, but even if you do, to make that person into a God incarnate is wrong as far as the Torah is concerned, which is why Christians and Jews differ on that very much. Messianic Jews and Jews for Jesus who believe that it was the Messiah at the time, some of them believe, and even those who believe in the reincarnation, right? Some of them believe that he'll come back, and some believe, no, there will simply be a second coming, but it won't actually be him. There's many difference of opinions. But do I believe it? No. I believe that even if those verses are speaking about an anointed one, a king, a Messiah, it has nothing to do with Jesus as he's portrayed in the New Testament. It has nothing to do with Yeshua, right? The way that he is portrayed and spoken of by Christians. Because they say that he's the Son of God, Lord and Savior, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and he was none of those things, right? He may have been a good guy, a sage, a king, a prophet, potentially, but he died, and when he died, that's it. That's when his reign ended. What's Christmas all about? I have no idea. I don't celebrate Christmas. It's just a fun sweater that my woman got me. I didn't even see the movie Elf, but I'm a fan of Will Ferrell, just like I said in the beginning. Torah, just opinions. Yeah, of course it's just opinions, right? It was written, you could say it has a divine origin, but it was written by people, by Moses, for people, in the tongues of men. Meaning that it has good and evil in it, because it's given to this world of good and evil. If you want to see good and ennobling things in the Torah, that's what you'll see. And if you want to see misogynistic, anti-human, horrible things in the Torah, that's what you'll see. And then the question is again, now what? Where is it that you're taking it? What is it that you're doing with it? So is it opinion? Obviously it's an opinion, right? And yes, it says in the Talmud, Istakel be'oraita, or the Zohar, Istakel be'oraita ubara alma. God looked at the Torah and created the world, and it's in a way telling those Jews who are taking on the Torah, it's like you are using something finite in order to make a connection with the infinite. You are using this physical scroll, this physical book, this physical rules and instructions and ways of being in the world in order to transcend and elevate yourself and be something that's larger than yourself, larger than just this world of action and physicality and good and evil. But if you say it's just opinion, I agree with you. Yes, it can be just opinion depending on how you look at it. Shalom, happy holidays, says Sicknick. Hey, Sicknick100, happy holidays to all. There is no ancestral claim to Jerusalem. It is land that belongs to the righteous. I'm inclined to agree, because God takes it away from certain nations and gives it to other nations. The land belongs to God. But I will say that there is an ancestral claim in the sense of we used to live there. And you could say, oh, but you were kicked out. Yes, as a people, we were kicked out, but there was always a Jewish presence here in the land of Israel. Always, throughout the generations, through every exile, through all the time in the diaspora, there has been a Jewish presence in this land. Was it a majority? Not always. Was it on a nation scale? No, not always. Was it a kingdom or a sovereignty? Not always. But there was always a presence here. Always it was part of our prayers, part of our longing to return to Zion. We never gave up on returning to Zion. Ever. It's what we are doing. Now, you could make, and many people do make this claim, no, you should have waited for God to give you a clear-cut sign, and only then should you have picked up your asses and gotten over there. And if you do it before that, that is false. And that is going against the divine mandate, going against the Torah. And I'm saying no. You can have the spiritual hastening the physical, and you can have the physical hastening the spiritual. But either way, you need both. So it doesn't matter to me if the state of Israel was first established by the original modern-day Zionists who were secular, who were socialist, right, and who wanted to build this land, not because it's divine, but because it was an ancestral home, the land of our mothers and fathers. I see nothing wrong with that. And the spiritual content will be poured onto this vessel, even though it's something of a broken vessel. We are shining it up. We are doing what we can. It's not perfect. Many faults, many shortcomings the state of Israel has, but we do what we can. Also, look, we are marred and scarred by war, destruction, pogroms, exile, death, terrorism. It's like we need to breathe and gather our bearings and have a chance to actually figure ourselves out and stop all the infighting, stop all the judgment, all the arrogance, all the vanity, all the division. It's just causing so much strife inside and out. We haven't had a time to actually sit down and collect ourselves and say, okay, so what's actually going on here? The state of Israel was created by the UN. No, the state of Israel was created by the people of Israel. It was endorsed by the UN. It was endorsed by the Balfour Declaration. It was endorsed by nations way before 1948. So it wasn't created by the UN, it was endorsed by the UN. The state of Israel also was on board with a partition plan, and the Arab states around us and the Muslims around us were the ones who were against it and started the war. HWI Pirate R says, think how hilarious it is. Saying free Palestine and shouting at people is all you're doing for Palestine. The same Palestinians would kill you if they could. Yes, there is a interesting element there, to be sure. Hilarious is not how I would put it. It's very sad. Many useful idiots out there. And make no mistake, I'm a useful idiot too. Not for that cause, but probably for other causes. And yeah, people are shouting this and that without knowing anything about the situation, without ever living here, without ever actually doing the research, right, properly. And yeah, many people who are saying free Palestine, the epitome of this is Queers for Palestine. Nothing against queer people, more power to them. But if they can't walk around Ramallah, they can't actually go to Gaza, they'd be stoned and thrown off a building in the blink of an eye. So yeah, pretty much. Get a haircut, dick breath, says Kids World 66. No, I'm not going to cut my hair. That would be against the Nazarite vow. As for dick breath. Dick breath. All right, I'll go with that. I am dick breath. Free Palestine, says Marika Stahl. Yes, I agree. Free Palestine from Hamas. Free Palestine from religious extremism. Free Palestine from terrorism. Free Palestine from radical a-holes who just are warmongering freaks. Free them from that, man. Kids World says, I always wondered what a 57-year-old virgin looks like. That says actually a lot. Well, actually, I'm 43. And actually, I'm not a virgin. But actually, I am as curious as a 43-year-old virgin. Does that count? Right? Because I've only ever been with one woman. So I'm highly curious. It's free. Where do I claim it? Says Osinak-kun. Indeed. He fucking owned it, says Kids World. You're damn right I own it. What the hell else am I gonna do? Of course I'll own it. You hurl everything at me, man. Hurl it at me. I will agree with you. I will laugh at myself with you. What else am I gonna do? I'm gonna say, no, I am not Dick Breath. Of course I'm Dick Breath. Give me a break. You need a shower. Palestine has never existed. Yes, I agree on both counts. I do need a shower, maybe later today. Palestine has never existed. However, the world has acknowledged for some reason that there is such a thing as Palestinian people. The government here in Israel has for some reason acknowledged that there is such a thing as Palestinian people. The Palestinian flag and heritage was made up in the 1960s with Soviet backing, right? Arafat, the PLO, that whole thing. But before that, it did not exist. Between 1948 and 1967, when Gaza and East Jerusalem were under Egyptian and Jordanian rule, respectively, nobody said anything about a Palestinian state. They could have had it at any given moment, at any given time. They could have said, oh, enough of this, Palestinians rise up. Nothing, not a thing. But as soon as Israel started to show that it's going to, then the devil created Zionists, says Charlie James. Well, devil means adversary, and for many people, Zionists are their adversaries. Created Zionists? No, it's the Torah that created Zionists. And it's the modern-day emancipation movement that created modern-day Zionists, right? Israel is a fake state, says SG. If you say Israel is a fake state, that means all states are fake. Japan is fake, Italy is fake, China is fake, Sweden is fake, Norway is fake, the United States is fake. Sicknick says, wow, so many disrespectful people on here. Keep up the friendly energy. You know what? It's not even a question of respect or disrespect. People need to get their crap out. People need to just blah, myself included, right? So if people come to a chat and they want to just spew their vile and their hatred and their bile, rhetoric, then let them. It's all good. It's really all good. Unless you're spamming in the chat, I don't ban anyone. I don't kick anyone out. I don't go against anyone. I'll agree with pretty much everything you say, whether it's humorous or whether it's real. So for sure. Hi from Turkey, says Gungorovsky. Turkey and USA, guys. All right, cool. So you're in Turkey and the USA? Someone said I looked Turkish yesterday, or was it the day before? I don't recall. Did this dude take cocaine before this? Asked Drew Mila 20. No, I've never done coke. I'm not planning on doing coke. I think that it's just not for me. That's just the feeling I'm getting from the talk around it. Gongorovsky said something with Hebrew letters that is unintelligible. That's gibberish, I'm sorry. You are a fairly chill person, says the higher observer. Look, all I can do is be chill. Make no mistake. I have the moments where I fly off the handle. I have moments where I'm, upset, where I'm angry, but I'm working on it. I truly am. I went back to therapy a few weeks ago after more than a decade because I got to work on my issues of communication. I got to shout less. I got to listen more. I got to stop letting the child me, control and have all those beliefs and all those feelings. I got to let myself get more grounded and balanced. So I went back to therapy. For sure. Rasta Jew. Well, once again, the Rastas base their way of life on the Nazarite vow. Can you sing King of a Crown? Do you mean king without a crown? You're all that I have and you're all that I need. Each and every day I pray to get to know you, please. Wanna be so close to you, yes, I'm so hungry. You're like water for my soul when it gets thirsty. Without you, there's no me, you're the air that I breathe. Sometimes I'm something and I just can't see. With us demons around I bring down to negativity, but I believe, said I believe, yes, I believe. I'm assuming you meant king without a crown. Like a king without a crown. You keep falling down. Trump's your daddy. Is he? Daddy? Oh, yes, Daddy Trump. Wait, I lost it. Trump's your daddy now. He will save you from yourself, says Spirit859. Sometimes people say you're not mistaken. Far be it from me to know. I don't know enough about the politics, local or foreign. I don't know enough about the connections or what goes on behind the scenes. I'm just a simple dumbass in the Middle East with a very narrow view, right? I don't have the mind for that. However, I will say that Trump has proven himself to be a friend of Israel more often than not, in the sense that what I can perceive, which is not much, but yeah, he has been a great ally to Israel. That doesn't mean he's awesome and great, and I don't know if I would vote for him if I would vote. I don't vote here, so I'm going to vote in the U.S. elections. You are fairly balanced. You're doing great, whatever you're doing. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Dirty Jew, bring back KKK. So listen, I was listening to the Soft White Underbelly YouTube channel, a couple of KKK, right, a couple of Klansmen he had on there, and one of them was saying something that I kind of agreed with, not in the sense that I would do it, but I agreed with in the way that he said it. He said, it's not about superiority, it's about segregation. We should be segregated. We've always been segregated. I don't think I'm better than anyone, but I think I should stick to my own people. Now, I'm not a KKK supporter, and it does have a very violent history. But I understood where he was coming from when he said that. Then again, he had a different KKK supporter, right? Mark interviewed him on Soft White Underbelly, and this guy was definitely a white supremacist, hardcore. I didn't agree with any of what that guy said. That was just not good at all. Not good at all. Do you watch Friday Night Dinner? Well, I have Friday Night Dinner, known as the first meal of Shabbos. I don't watch anything on Friday night. The TV and all the electricity is off from sundown Friday until the stars come out on Saturday night. 25 hours approximately of no electricity. I don't watch TV. I don't flip on any switches. I don't use my phone. So if Friday Night Dinner is indeed broadcast or streaming on Friday night, I'm afraid I miss it every single week. Eesh. Are you a child trafficking and torturing children? I've never trafficked children, unless you count me driving my kids in the car. That's literal child trafficking because they're my kids and we are sitting in traffic. As for torturing children, I don't deny that there are some things as a father I'm doing that might have an impact on them psychologically. Nothing I'm doing with intention of harming them, of course. And in that sense, I'm not torturing them, because to torture is to basically cause pain for information, or because you're a sadist, or because you simply are screwed up in the head. And I don't think I'm either of those things. I mean, we're all screwed up a little in the head. So I'm not saying I'm not that. But no, so I am a child trafficker in that sense, and I suppose I do torture children. I roughhouse with them a lot. And so, yeah. Does there have to be traffic for it to be trafficking? No, I suppose the roads can be clear and it's still trafficking because I am sitting, not in traffic, bumper to bumper, but coursing, and making my way through the roads. Pedophiles run away to Israel for protection. I've actually heard this. People said this about the state of Israel. People said that it's become a haven for pedophilia and pedophiles from foreign countries who run to Israel for protection. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if we have a disproportionate amount of foreign pedophiles hiding here in Israel. No one has actually shown me any statistics. Nobody has referred me to any proper sightings, research, police files that this is actually going down. So I'm going to say nah. No, I don't think so. Warback 3771 says, bro has definitely visited the Moloch temple on Epstein's Island. So I don't worship the Molech. That's not allowed by Torah. I try to follow the Torah, which means that I don't worship foreign gods, nor do I worship the Hebrew God in foreign ways. And I've never been to Epstein Island. I don't think I've ever been to any island. I've been to the peninsula, but not an island. So that's... Oh, you know what? There was a small island that I went to on the Sea of Galilee. There was a small, tiny island of just for like 10 people. And we had a barbecue there back when I was still eating meat. Oh man, over 20 years ago. So, right, there was a small boat. We took 2 small boats, like tiny, right, like little tiny pedal boats. And we sailed out, I don't know, must have been 50 meters into the Sea of Galilee. And there was a tiny little bump of land there. We set up there for the afternoon, and we brought the grill, and it was awesome. Thank you for the memory. Thank you for that. So I have not visited it. Warback, were you there? Have we seen each other there? Because if I was there, it was my doppelganger, not me. Know what I'm saying? Okay. Cranchberry says, why do you think Christians just disregard or completely ignore the Torah's existence? No, I don't think they disregard it, and I don't think they completely ignore that it exists. I think they simply say that's the Old Covenant, it's the Old Testament, it was already fulfilled, so we don't need Shabbos, we don't need circumcision, we don't need any worship in the sense of a temple. There's no oral tradition either, right? Mishnah, Talmud, no halacha. We can forsake all that. They consider Jesus, in my understanding, to be the epitome of fulfillment and the new covenant, and through him everything is done, which means that the old ways are gone. Now, they cite certain prophecies that say that there will be a new heaven and a new earth and a new covenant, and all of that is true, but we're not there yet, which means that they kind of jumped the gun as far as the Torah is concerned. Because the Torah states that this covenant between God and Israel is everlasting. And it's not simply that we are chosen people. It's just that we were selected for a specific task. Humanity was chosen. Forget Israel and Gentiles. That's crap. It's crap. As far as I'm concerned, we all share this image of God. We all have the potential to be divine beings, to personify that image of God, to elevate ourselves, transcend our physical nature while still living in this world, right? Living out life. To be good people. That's part of what it's about. So some Christians disregard or completely ignore the Torah's existence because it's a thorn in their sides. The Torah literally states that God will not break the covenant with Israel. Christians literally state God has forsaken Israel and has chosen other people, by and large, right? I'm making like a broad generalization here. That's what they say. That's why it's very convenient for them to say, no, the Torah was the Torah was the law, but now Yeshua, Jesus, the Son of God, is the law. But since we don't believe in such a thing, right, as Hebrews, the Torah is everlasting in that sense. Any mods here? No, Ben Sheffield, no mods. Jew, says Ilya. Yes, I am. I am a Jew from Judea, and from the kingdom of Judah. I'm not from the tribe of Judah. I'm a Levite according to tradition, though that might be wrong. It's an ancient tradition, but it still might be wrong. Warback asks, what are your thoughts on Moses commanding Israelites to rape, and murder Gentile children in numbers? There is no such commandment to grape and murder Gentile children. What had to be done, okay, is that the 7 nations that lived here, that's in the war of conquest, nobody was allowed to stay alive. But that was the only war, right? The war, the 13-year war of conquest, right? Joshua, the general, the leader, crossing the Jordan, leading the tribes into battle. That was the only time when that happened. No doubt about that. That's the only time when it happened. As for rape, I know that there is that idea of eshet yifat toar, meaning there, and it's a debate on whether or not it was allowed and permissible to actually rape a woman on the battlefield, so to speak, and then you had to take her into your home for a month. Some people say that you could have sexual relations with her right then and there in the middle of the war. And some say, no. If you saw a woman, a foreign woman that you like, you could take her into your home. You need to wait a month. Only then, after a month, when she has lived there with you, you wake up, she's there. You go to sleep at night, she's there. It's like you need permission to use the bathroom. Is it all right if I use the bathroom now? Okay, who can tell me what I just quoted? Leave it in the chat. And so what are my thoughts? My thoughts are the Torah was given to people by people. The Torah encapsulates the good and the evil that is in the world. If you want to see evil in the Torah, you'll see it. If you want to see nobility and kindness and wonder in the Torah, you will see it. And so if you want to see the rape and the death and the destruction and murder, you'll see it. It's definitely there. But what is it that you are following? What is it that you are adapting in the here and now? Are you saying, oh, well, there was a commandment at the time of the conquest of Israel, of the Holy Land, of Canaan, to rape and murder, so let's all rape and murder? It's like, no, that was a war of conquest, a once-in-a-lifetime, once-in-creation thing. That doesn't mean you need to follow it. It means you need to learn from your mistakes, and it means you need to learn from what not to do. Most of the Torah, by the way, most of the commandments, there are 613 commandments, right? 365 do-nots, or thou shalt nots, and 248 thou shalts, which means that what you are not supposed to do is greater than what you are supposed to do, like numerically. And this means, extrapolating or going from that, it means that when you read the Torah, you should be paying attention more to what you're not supposed to do. So if there are stories of rape and murder and people acting to each other in a horrible way, behaving horribly and doing horrible things to each other, notice that. Use your mind. Pay attention. Understand that that's not how you're supposed to be. That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take that and say, that was not good. Let's not do that. But it's there for you to learn from. Those are my initial thoughts on it. Where do you live, friend? Asks Angel Merlino. I am in Jerusalem, Zion, the holy city in the Holy Land. There are 4 holy cities: Jerusalem, Tiberias, Tzfat, and Hebron. I've been to 4 out of 4. I've studied in 2 of them. I live in Jerusalem. It is a blessing and a wonderful thing. You need a moderator to filter out the stupid comments. Some of us are here to ask genuine questions. D8, I don't know. I'm all about the free-flowing chat. So maybe I will, maybe I won't. It's difficult to know. It's very difficult. Is God also known as Abba? So Abba is an attribute of God, right? We have in the Tree of Life 10 sfirot, 10 emanations, 10 revelations of the divine. One of them is called Chokhmah, or knowledge, or not knowledge, wisdom. We have wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Chokhmah, binah, da'at. And Abba is literally father. The name that corresponds with father is Yah, Yod-Heh. So there is a divine revelation called Abba. Yes, that is true. I got a serious question, says Biglet to Fly. Please ask. I hope that I catch it in the chat. It's going by very quickly. Abba is father. Yes. Right, you know the phrase Avinu shebashamayim, our Father who art in heaven. So these are not just words. Avinu, our Father, has a specific meaning. Shebashamayim, who that is in the sky or that is in heaven. It doesn't mean that there's an old man in the sky watching you. No, that doesn't mean anything like that. The name Avinu shebashamayim, our Father who art in heaven, in the Hebrew, has very specific attributes associated with it, and it means 2 divine revelations, Father and heaven, coming together. All right? There's the physical Father that is above you, in all of its, in all of his or her, in all of his wonder and his well, strictness and judgment. And you have heaven, which is something that can give you sunshine, or it can give you rain. It can give you clouds, or it can give you, right, the force of nature and the nature that created you, our Father who art in heaven. So let's see, too big to fly, big lit to fly. Can I take a hot steaming shit on your chest? Wow, that is a good question. Now, if it's too hot and too steaming and it will hurt me, probably not. If it is something where it's just to degrade me, maybe, depending on the mood that I'm in. I've never had anybody shit on me. So that would be a first. And big lit to fly, if you're up for it and there's a good reason, I just might let you do it. I just might let you do it. I'm not sure. The messenger says, always weird crackheads on here talking about God. Well, I don't know God. All I know is how God reveals himself to me, which means that we are talking about revelations of God here. So, crackheads, I've never smoked crack. I think it's a really, really addictive substance from what I've heard, and I don't want to try it. No. Right? It's a derivative of cocaine, or am I mistaken? So, no. Shabbat Shalom says Ziggy lives, or lives. Well, it's not Shabbat, but you are supposed to remember Shabbat each day, which is why the days of the week is the first in Shabbat, the second of Shabbat, the third of Shabbat, because you're supposed to remember the Sabbath every day. Matthew says, can you tell me about your education surrounding the relationship between Adonai and El? Were they distinct deities that later emerged, or different titles that are the same thing revealed over time? So, Yod He Vav He is a divine revelation that's a specific divine attribute called Tiferet, the middle of the 10 Sfirot. El is a certain divine attribute that is loving kindness, or the right hand, that is on the right pillar, whereas Tiferet is in the middle or center pillar. So they both represent different attributes of the Most High God. Now, El and Yod He Vav He, people say that they originated in the local pantheon of gods, right, where they were separate deities that belonged to the Canaanites and the Canaanite tribes. And that later, when the Hebrew tribes came about and sort of took it into their faith and their religion, they used the names that were in earlier faiths, but made them all revelations of one Hebrew God, rather than a pantheon of gods and separate deities, right? So, the relationship is that they are revelations of God coming from the right and the center. Inside of Tiferet, or Yod He Vav He, it encompasses all of the tree of life. From the tip of the Yod to the leg, the short leg of the He, it's 10 Sfirot. And El represents loving kindness, the right hand that is always giving. Have you seen the symbol of the Chamsa, right? The hand that is open, the hand that is always giving. That's what that is. That's El. There's also, for instance, El Elyon, right? That's a higher thing. Were they distinct deities? So they were distinct deities for the people that came before the Hebrews, but when the Hebrews sort of consolidated all of those deities and decided to worship one Hebrew God with many emanations, influences, and revelations, then they became a different name for the same deity. That's the relationship. And if you want to know more about the relationship between Tiferet and Chesed, the right hand, and the middle, El and Adonai, Yod He Vav He, Yod He Vav He, by the way, is said one way but written in another way, right? It's seen as Yod He Vav He, but it's actually spoken Aleph Daled Nun Yod, right? You see one thing with your eyes and you speak another thing with your mouth outside. You verbalize it differently. Yod He Vav He is the masculine, Adonai is the feminine, and seeing one thing and saying another is bringing them together in unity. Okay. I have a serious question, says Gamer Guy. Rabbi, I'm not a rabbi. What is your thoughts on King Solomon? Thank you, Rabbi. Well, first of all, without any doubt, asking for wisdom in order to be a better ruler over his people is a boss move by Solomon. King Shlomo was very wise. At the end of his days, he went a little astray. And I'm not faulting him for that. He was a great king while he lived, right? And he built the first temple, and that was an amazing thing. So those are my thoughts. I'm a fan of Proverbs. I'm a fan of Ecclesiastes, Kohelet. I'm a fan of the Song of Songs. I love the stories about him in. I love the stories about him in the Book of Kings. Oh, he's talking about the real God, No, I'm talking about the real God as far as the Hebrews are concerned. All the nations have their deities, all the religions have their gods. They should all be sticking to what they have, their faith, their way. There's no one real God. There's just what I perceive as God, what is revealed to me as God. And in the reality that I inhabit, right, the divine is speaking to me through the Torah, through nature, through life. And that means that I can identify and say, these are all clothings in which the king is dressing himself. But the king is really just one. He can change his clothes, he can put on a hat, he can wear different socks, he can go around, with just a mankini or a sling thong, but it's still just a revelation of God through the clothing. So the one creator, it belongs to creation. The way that God is clothed, right? So I have no ownership of God. I don't know God. So no, you are wrong. I haven't found the one true God. I'm talking about the one true God for the Hebrews. And I make that distinction because I understand that the way that I perceive God is not like anybody else does. Because it's my life, through my own consciousness, through my own eyes of flesh, eyes of mind, eyes of the spirit. And all I know is the revelations. I don't know God. So yeah, absolute fucking unit. Thank you, I appreciate that. The thing is this. There are thousands of gods. There are. The Torah says this, right? There are many different gods. The thing is that if you're a Hebrew person, you understand that while there may be many forces of nature that can be attributed to the divine, and maybe there are lower gods and lower creatures, let's say, and spiritual entities and deities, these are all different manifestations of one single creator, right? That life force that brought about everything here. In that sense, there is one real God. And I do real with the quotes because what is real? Real is only how I perceive it. And we perceive reality differently. I don't see things the way you do, and that's the way it ought to be. Right? Otherwise, there's no individuality, and we need individuality. We need the pluralism. Elohim and the Anukai is our creator, says Loso the Boss One. I don't know what Anuaki is. Someone enlighten me. I'm ignorant. What is Anuaki? I would love to know. Let's see. Atlas? No, Altar of Parasites says, altar of Parasites. Not hard to understand that your life is of existential absurdities. We live on a small rock within an infinite expansion that surrounds us. Stop overthinking this shit, homie. Hey, there are absolutely no doubt. We are the third rock from the sun, a tiny little dust mote in the galaxy that is one among trillions, just hurtling through space. And still, taking all that into account, I'm saying yes, and now what? So I was created just to hurtle through space meaninglessly? I've given that some thought. I have come to the conclusion, after giving it a lot of thought, that no, my life has meaning. And the meaning of life is to give life meaning. That's how you have a meaningful life. If you people out there want to lead a meaningful life and live out a meaningful life, it is you who give it the meaning. It is you who bestow upon it whatever it is you want it to be. You know how Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world? It's be the change you want to see in your life. If you act like your life has meaning, it will become meaningful. If you act like your life requires you to shoulder that burden of responsibility, it will present itself to you as such. And you need to know that it's all about set and setting. Just like an old psychedelic experience, your life is very much the same way. What is it that you are doing with the time that you're given? You could argue over faith, religion, and spirituality, but the point is that you are here, irrevocably here, breathing, walking, talking, making your way through life. Now, if you want to do that without any responsibility, with nihilism, with a kind of idea of, no, it's just me, with a kind of solipsism, fine. See where it takes you. If it does good by you, nobody's keeping you. I'm not gatekeeping anything. Be solipsistic. I'm a little solipsistic myself. Anuaki, the Book of Enoch. So yeah, there are several books of Enoch. I read one of them long ago. Sefer Chanoch, right? I read it in Hebrew. So yes, we are a third rock just hurtling through space, but we also have the opportunity, some would say the duty, the responsibility, to give this meaning and understand that we are connected. We're all interconnected, in a network, and not just human beings, right? All of creation, all of the universe has one thread running through it. Connect to that thread. and you will be able to transcend your own measly physicality, transcend your own, I'm one among billions on this rock. Give it meaning. You give your life meaning so simple yet so profound. Shalom, shalom, says Ariel 144K. Yeah, hey, I'm not pulling this out of my ass. I'm regurgitating what many people have said before me. Much smarter people, much wiser people, right? It's like, hold on to the tree of life. Cleave to the tree of life. And if you're a Hebrew, right, cleave to the Torah and the commandments. It will give your life so much meaning. Not because it's a bunch of crap, not because you are worshiping some imaginary old man in the sky. Far from it. Also, I'm not knocking people who do that. If you want to conceptualize God as an old man in the sky, cool. If it makes you a better person, so be it. Ideally, you shouldn't do it out of fear of retribution, out of, of you going, of transgression, of punishment, of, you against God, God against you. That's no way to go through life, right? Because God, there are revelations of endless love and unconditional kindness, and also of, judgment. D8 says, does the Torah mention any sins that are unforgivable? Well, unforgivable in the sense of what? Because there are different punishments. Some of them are death, and some of them are lashes, right? Flogging. And some of them are karet, where you cut off, let's say, you are cut off of the branch of the Hebrew people. So, unforgivable? No. Without a temple, without a Sanhedrin, all sins are forgivable in the conceptual way. In other words, some are only forgiven through murdering the murderer. Some are only forgiven, let's say, through cutting yourself off of the people. And some through lashes, or some through monetary compensation, and so on and so on. But I think that now, without a temple, without a high court, without a king, everything is, let's say, atonable. I won't say forgiveness, I'll say atonement, right? Forgiveness is on the part of the one who was transgressed against, let's say. Atonement is you doing the work, you doing the job, you understanding that you did something that was transgressing, that was doing it wrong, that was corrupting and warping, right, life, and that you need to make it right. And if you believe you can make things wrong, says Rabbi Nachman of Breslev, believe you can also make it right. It's so easy for us. And the stories, right, we tell ourselves to think of ourselves so pitifully, to judge ourselves, and to think that we are lowly, and not in a good way. But we can also understand that we have a great power, a wonderful, wonderful opportunity, a potential. As long as I still draw breath, it means that I still have a job to do. As long as I am still of sound mind and sound body, and take that with a grain of hummus, it means that I still have something, a mission, a path, a way, a gift to give to the world, as David Data says in The Way of the Superior Man. So the Torah does mention certain sins where it should be answered, let's say, in a certain way. But as for forgiveness, no. If you make tshuva, and the prophets made this very clear, if you're wicked, totally wicked, and you make tshuva, you return, you repent, you live righteously, not only will those sins be forgiven, but they will be elevated to being merits. Because without those wrongdoings, you would not have come to that place, to that rock bottom, which caused you to boing, spring back up and go higher than you ever could have. Now, this does not mean that you should put yourself in a certain position of wickedness, malevolence, and wrongdoing and corruption just to say, oh, I went all the way down in order to spring back up. No. But should life kick you in the ass because of what you're doing, pay attention and see where it takes you. Matthew says, with all that you said, do you feel you connect to Jewish teachings more culturally or intellectually? Could you be moved to a different belief system with enough revelation in whatever direction? Well, let's put it this way. Cultural Judaism and intellectual Judaism is all well and good. I want to bring it down to reality, right? I've looked at the Torah as objectively as I can, and I've found it wanting in some ways because it's very ancient. But on the other hand, I found great wisdom in there, such wisdom that I could not ignore it. Same thing with the prophets, same thing with the scrolls and the writings, same things with the oral traditions and the midrash. So I connect to Jewish teachings on all different levels. I am a cherry picker. I cherry pick every single thing. But I had to be very cautious. I had to discern. I cherry pick every verse. I cherry pick every chapter, every prophet, every text, every part of scripture. I cherry pick. The thing is that I told myself, dude, if you're going to be a cherry picker, pick the best cherries. Pick the most fundamental, right, of injunctions. Pick the hills that you're going to die on very carefully and go with that. So that's what I'm doing. I used to keep much strict halacha. I used to be a very Orthodox Jew. Since then, I stepped away from mainstream Orthodoxy. I still consider Orthodox Judaism, modern Orthodoxy here in Israel, right, to be my home and my root. But the Hebrew root is greater than my Jewish root. And the Hebrew root, right, is much wider. It has a breadth of much greater proportions than a Jew. Right? A Jew is relegated to a Jew among the nations. The Jews had their temple destroyed. The Jew is Judah, one kingdom of two that need unification. Now, could I be moved to a different belief system with enough revelation? So, like I said, I only know how God reveals himself to me. I went with the paths of my ancestors and my sires, right? With the lore of the 10 Sfirot, the lore of the Tree of Life, the lore of the Torah. I have found everything that I will need. Now, wisdom is something that I gain from other texts as well and other religions, right? Whether it's the Hindu Vedas, right, the Ayurvedic Vedas, or whether it's the, or whether it's the Tao Te Ching. I find wisdom in all of those teachings, East and West alike. The thing is that I know that when it comes to matters of belief and faith, I have one Creator, one Hebrew God, above all, unknowable, unfathomable, untouchable, unthinkable. And all other things that I can think of, conceptualize, perceive with my senses, all of that is only reflections, revelations, emanations, influences, ways in which God is clothing himself in order to be revealed. And in that sense, a different belief system, look, I've learned in my studies and readings just how flexible life can be, just how fluid creation is. And so, moved, you'll have to be very, very precise and tell me where. Because it's something else, right? Divine revelation. Mondi Licht 3333 says, have you read Jonathan Adler's The Origins of Judaism? I have read The Origins of the Hebrew People, not The Origins of Judaism. He is a rabbi and professor of archaeology, says Mondi Licht, and concluded the Torah was adopted at the time of the Hashmonaid dynasty. Yes, it very well could be that a tradition was brought down throughout the generations, but was only adopted there. You could also say the same thing when Shaphan, the son of Chilkiah, found the Torah in the temple and said, he said to Tzidkiyahu, or Chilkiyahu? No, he said, I found the Torah. It's like, where was the Torah up until then? You know? So no, I haven't read it. Look, many things happened with the Hashmonaid dynasty. It's a dynasty that lasted only just over 200 years. The last king of Judah, the king of Hashmonaid, Agrippa II, he was the last king that stood for us, right here in the land of Israel. Since then we have had no king or kingdom. But, to say that it was adopted only then, adopted maybe by the masses, but there was a tradition going back to Moses and a tradition of Hebrew origin going back even before that. Read, Hebrew means Ever. Ever was the great-grandson of Shem, son of Noah. 3 random words says, I block broken records, smiley, bye. You block broken records? Not sure what you mean. I don't think I'm being a broken record. But okay. I apologize, says X Smiley. What kind of G are you? No offense. I'm not a G. I'm more of a C. But I'm a Hebrew. I'm just a simple dumbass in the Middle East. No more, no less. Having a discussion here. That's all I'm doing. Jews, do you know something we don't? Asks Panagoist Avram. Avram. Do I know? I know what I know. And look, there are more things that I don't know than what I do know. Let's put it that way. Always. That will always be the case. There's more of what I don't know than what I do know. Now, Jews, I can't speak for all the Jews. So you tell me what you know, and I'll tell you what I know, and we'll be able to see if we can have some common ground. And if I know something you don't, you definitely know things I don't. Do you believe in heaven and hell? Says DA. No, there is no heaven and hell in the traditional sense, right? Heaven is what's known as Eden, a waiting room, not the final destination at all. Tree of Life is the final destination for now, and then we go into humanity phase 2, because we were supposed to partake of the fruit of the Tree of Life, but because of a mix-up, let's say, we partook of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil before the right time, and so we were kicked out of Eden before we could partake of that, and so this is humanity phase 1. and we will get eventually to humanity phase 2, right? Come back to the path of the tree of life that was put under guard but never forbidden, as I love to say. As for hell, there is no hell. There's no place that you burn in forever. In the Hebrew faith, we do have something akin to purgatory, meaning a temporary hell, up to 12 months. But again, these are spiritual matters. These are not right. We here live in a world of time and space. We live in a world bound by the laws of physics, unless you're around the event horizon of a black hole. So even there, the laws of physics can break down. And so we see that even in a very stringent world of physics, there are places where you can bend the rules and you can break them. But I digress. Hell in the Hebrew faith is more of a place of purgation, of cleanliness, of being cleansed, right? It's where you become greater. It's where you're able to shed all the layers of the onion, right, and the karma. If you haven't done so here, that's where you do it. And so when I say that hell is up to 12 months, I don't mean it's actually 12 cycles of the moon. I mean it's a way to conceptualize it in a way that we here who dwell on earth can understand. Oh, it's like a trip around the sun. It's like 12 cycles of the moon. It's a period of time that's significant, but it's not everlasting. So yes, there is a kind of heaven, but it's not what you may think. And there is a kind of hell, but it's not what you may think. So we don't have heaven or hell in the Torah. No, we don't. Cranchberry says, so you believe in your perception of a God depicted in all religions. I believe in a God perceived differently by different religions. You know, I say this a lot. It's the same thing with the elephant, right? It's the parable or the allegory of the elephant, right? You have 4 different people with a blindfold, and they put them in front of and you put them in front of an elephant. One of them is feeling his trunk. One of them is feeling his tail. One of them is feeling the hide, right? Just the back. One of them is feeling a leg. So one of them says, an elephant is like a long, thick serpent. And one says, no, the elephant is like a short, thick, thin serpent. It's like, no, you're both wrong. An elephant is like a circular, tubular thing. And the other one says, no, there's no circular anything. It's just a plain, flat thing. All of them are correct. You take off the blindfold, what do they see? One animal. But they were looking at different things, different places, attributes in the animal, making the mistake of thinking that, oh, this is what it is and this is all it is. Saying, no, the elephant is an elephant. It's one creation. It has many different parts. In the very same way, the divine is one, God is one, right? And the creator is one. The depictions vary. The revelations vary. The different ideas which are personified as God, they vary. But we in the Hebrew faith say that God is unknowable, untouchable, unfathomable, unthinkable. If I can perceive it, it's not God. If I can conceptualize it, it's not God. If I can do anything that has to do with my senses, my psyche, it's not God. It's all revelations of God. Now the thing is, much like Moses and other prophets, you can expand your mind, expand your consciousness, elevate yourself in the physical and the spiritual, bring about a unification of the masculine and feminine divine presence in the world, and just like the unity of man and woman can bring forth fruit of life, your unification of the masculine and feminine presence will bring forth new revelation to you on a personal level, on a national level, right, if you're a prophet. So all those depictions, right, all those depictions are different ways of perceiving the one thing that is unknowable and unnameable. And yet we make it known, and we give it names, and we clothe it with different ideas, but none of it is really that. Matthew says, have you ever taken any time in your life to pursue or absorb the hard sciences? So look, my mother is a doctor of biochemistry. I grew up in a house that was very much led by science. She told me all her life, continues to tell me, she is a wonderful scientist. A magician of DNA, she was called by her colleagues, is still. And she told me it was through science that my faith in God was affirmed even more. It was through the inside and outs of the cell that I was able to see God in the micro and the macro, right? So I have pursued and absorbed the hard sciences through my mother, through high school. I didn't go to college, I didn't go to university, I went to film school later, I got my certification of completion, but I never, I'm not an educated man, right? I finished 12 years of high school, but I never even took my regents exams, right? So I didn't even do that, or what's known as baguyot here. Are you a preacher, says Priest 2.0. No, I'm not a preacher. I'm more of a ranter, rambler, talking out of my asser, gasser. That's what I am. Hey, what are you laughing at, woman? Rocketeer, great film. 3667, if you're going to do videos, brush your hair, please. Common sense. Well, I don't use a brush. I don't use a comb. And so, it's the Nazarite vow. And a Nazarite is not allowed to use a comb or a brush. You're not allowed to use any tools to manipulate your hair because the crown of consecration is on your head. Definitely not an educator, man. I didn't say I'm an educator. Of course I'm not an educator. I said I'm not educated. Could you read my comments? Up ahead says, go to bed, boy. Let's see. Could I read my comments? What do you mean? Up ahead means the ones you're going to do now? Okay. Do you think math makes you closer to God? Well, you know what? We live in a world of numbers. And the Hebrew letters have numerical values for a reason. So I think that through math, you can get closer to God if you choose to see God revealed in the numbers. Right? Math is a language. Language is how we communicate. Language, right? It speaks of speech. Right? It kind of has that. And speech, a revelation of speech, is how God created the world, according to the story of creation in Genesis. So we see that God created creation through speech, a revelation of speech. Speech means language, a tongue. Math, like music, is also a language. You could be closer to God through music. You could be closer to God through math. It's all a question of how you approach it. If you want to see the divine patterns, you'll see them in the music. You'll see them in the math. You'll see infinity in a grain of sand. You'll see the wonder of all creation on the back of one small ant. You'll see it if that's what you're looking for. And if you orient yourself in that way, and you could say, oh, well, of course you'll see what you're looking for. You'll see it there. You'll make things up. It's like, okay, maybe you'll make things up because you want to see it. The question again is, now what? Let's say it's all in your head. It's still in your head. You got to do something with it. Are you going to be there for the good? Are you going to be there for the bad? How is it that you are going to interact with the world? Taking right through your lens, through your experience. So I think math, light and slim, I think math can make you closer to God if that's what you're into. X Smiley says, how many homeless Jewish people are here? Thank God I've never been homeless. There have been times in the army where I slept out in nature, but I'm not homeless. I've never been homeless. I think it's a very, very wicked and difficult fate to be homeless. Now, you can be homeless by choice, and that's a different story. But there are so many people, with mental issues, so many people addicted to so many drugs on the streets. The establishment won't take them. They've already gone through all of their, just horrible, horrible stories of people ending up in the streets without a prayer, without a hope, being ignored by everybody, friendless, and just, it rips your heart out. But no, I'm not homeless. Thank God. I've always had a home. From the time when I was born to this very day right now, I've had a home or a place to call home. So yeah. Realist Joe Biden says, bruh, the hair, he can't be serious, but he's spitting facts though. Good job. Well, what does one have to do with the other? It's easy to judge a book by the cover, but read the book. You'll usually get a lot more from the contents of the book than the cover. Talk more about the Old Testament, says Nighthawk. Well, ask a specific question and I will try to address it. I won't say answer it, because what do I know, but definitely address it. Threshold Moment says, I don't understand why you are saying that is ignorant. I'm sorry, are you referring to me? Did you have a question before? Sorry, man. Sorry, man, I don't exactly know what you're talking about. Sorry about that. Who paid for your home? Who paid for you to always have a home? Well, when it was my boyhood, then I had my parents pay for my home. When I was in yeshiva, living in yeshiva before the army, I studied in yeshiva for 3 years. They paid for that as well. Then after yeshiva, I got married. I was married at 20, and when I was married at 20, I didn't live at home, but I was paying rent. My wife was living at home alone for over a year while I was completing my mandatory service. Then the army was partly paying for rent. My woman was working and partly paying for rent. And my mother-in-law, who wanted us to live closer to her, so she chipped in with the rent. Because if it wasn't for her, we probably would not have lived that close, and the rent would have been cheaper. She understood this, and so she said, you know what, I'll chip in. And now I pay for my home with a mortgage. I have a mortgage. I'm paying for my home. I have over a decade left on the mortgage, and then it will be ours. lock, stock, and barrel. And that's awesome. Definitely awesome. Do you play an instrument? Yes, I play guitar, Scotch Amber. Scott Chambers, 2720. I play guitar. I play a mean kazoo. I play underarm. Watch. See? And what else do I play? I can definitely play on people's nerves, like an instrument. I can tug on people's heartstrings like a harp. And yeah, pretty much. Matthew says, where does one really start with this? Does it pay off to have the discipline to start with Genesis? Or are there other texts or traditions that offer a more holistic entry point to Judaism? Well, look, that would have to be you finding a proper master. Now, you could make the case, no, study the Torah from scratch, read it objectively, and it will come to you. Could be. But in the Hebrew faith, to have a master is very, 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 to some it's crucial, to some it's just of great benefit, because in the beginning, when you take on the discipline of Torah and commandments, it's really, really best to have a master who you can be in contact with, who can guide you, who knows you ideally, and who knows how to aim their words to your heart, right? So your ears will be able to hear it, your heart is open enough to comprehend, and your mind will be able to make connections. And your gut, by the way, because a lot of the brain is in the gut, and your gut will be able to process it much in the way that it processes food. You take the things that gives you sustenance. You push away the things that are, well, extra, and you might push them out. Wicked arm horn, says D8. Ain't it, though? Ain't it? I can also do it with the crook of my leg. I'm not going to do that now, though. D8 says, is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit all the same person? Curious on your opinion of the Trinity. Well, I'm not a follower of Yeshua. I don't go by the Trinity. I don't know anything that has to do with Christianity, really. I read the New Testament once in my life. I'm going to do it again probably soon, but I haven't yet. So, I don't know anything about the Trinity. You'll have to ask a Christian. Sorry, man. Thoughts on Isaiah 53, 3-5. Yes, I know, many Christians and followers of Yeshua point to that and say, oh, that's about Jesus. It's like, no, it's not necessarily about one guy, certainly not about one Jesus. Of course, if you want to see it there, nobody's taking it away from you. My thoughts are it's about the people, and it's about the state of the individual inside of the people of Israel. So that prophecy is spoken presumably about one person, but it speaks to the children of Israel. And so it speaks to each of them as an individual, and that's how I see it. What are your thoughts on consensual premarital sex? Asks Jesus is Yeshua 3844. My thoughts are that, first of all, people have free will and they can do what they want. Second of all, if it's consensual, that's already good, and use protection. Third, premarital. Well, look, I was a virgin until I got married. It's one of the things that I knew from a very young age that I wanted to keep. The idea of inserting yourself into another person, I was like, no, I need a covenant, a spiritual, physical, mental, metaphysical covenant with a person before I literally put my body inside of them. That's a really heavy thing. That's a significant thing. And you could say, no, go to hell. It's just sex. We're just animals, so let's do it like animals. And I say, yes, we are animals. We do it like animals, but we are put here to elevate our animal nature. We are put here to take those base needs and desires and to find a way to elevate them and take that finite body with all of its cravings and elevate it and attach it to the infinite. And in doing so, truly make that connection, right? So my thoughts are people can do what they want. I did not have premarital sex. I understand those who do, but there's a great risk at marrying someone without knowing if you're compatible in that sense. But let's just say that I knew that my woman and I will be compatible. X Smiley says, go ahead and block me, you pedophile. No, I don't think I will. I don't think I will. Also, I'm not a pedophile. Go ahead? I will go ahead. I'll continue. Thank you for the permission to do so. You will be convicted sooner or later, says Dimitrov 4060. Likely. I will be convicted for what, though? I don't know. Tell me what it is, and I'll tell you if I might be convicted. What's up, doll? Looking good. Would like to hear you play guitar, said Scott Chambers. Actually, look, I do want to play more guitar. I want to buy a very cheap guitar just to have it on the live streams, you know? Because right now I would use my son's guitar because the guitar that we have has a busted string, a busted high E. No, is it a D? An A, a busted A string. So, yeah, a Ray. Is it a Ray? Yeah, it's a Ray. I don't want to be Christian or Jew or Buddhist or Muslim or Hindu or anything else. Is that okay? Of course it's okay, Threshold Moment. It's your life. Do what you want with it. Religion is not for everybody. Spirituality is for everybody. Religion is not for everybody. Organized religion, even more so. Not for everybody. Not for everybody at all. Now, so many people are supremacists in the way that they say, oh, we know the truth. We have the great wisdom. Brah! No, not for me. I don't think like that. I think that all I have is what life is giving me. I take, I'm playing life with the hand that I was dealt. And I wish to make the right choices. And I would love to be pursuing justice, truth, peace, love, honesty, righteousness. And I fail in doing that. Make no mistake. But like Samuel Beckett says, he says, fail again, fail better. I want to fail better every time. I have a guitar for you. That's nice. Are you a vegetarian? I'm vegan, Serafim Avelion. Nice to see you here. I am a vegan man. And if you keep Passover, do you at least eat lamb on that day? No, I do not. I do not eat lamb because it's not mandated by the Torah. It's mandated by the Torah when we have a standing temple in Zion. But on Passover, there is the traditional 4 cups of wine, and because I'm a Nazarite, I don't do that either. So I have some sort of meat replacement, and I have 4 cups of apple juice. I have 4 cups of organic apple juice because that was the way of the Nazarite rabbi David Cohen, who died in 1973. The Nazarite rabbi of Jerusalem. Now, I've met with several Nazarite rabbis here in Jerusalem and already have spoken to them, bought their books. They are lovely, wonderful to talk to them, but I partake of none of the grapevine, which means that the 4 traditional cups of wine drunk at the Seder I replaced with apple juice to continue the Nazarite rabbi's tradition. This guy doesn't seem like the type to block people to have moderators. He believes in free speech. Definitely, I believe in free speech. Now, it's a problem because YouTube places the onus on the creator of the channel and of the live stream. Meaning that if something happens here and I get reported, maybe YouTube will say, oh, he's no good. And by the way, I don't have anything on file. I haven't updated. I don't have anything on zip. I haven't backed up anything. This is the second channel I have. My first channel was deleted a few years ago, removed by YouTube. I haven't been able to get it back. Might happen here again, I don't know, but hopefully not. Hopefully not. Cider is beautiful, though. So yeah, cider has alcohol in it, and I don't drink alcohol either. Not because of the Nazarite vow. That's allowed. A Nazarite man or woman are allowed to partake of alcohol that's not of grape origin. I just simply decided to cut out all alcohol along the way. I'm pro-free speech, any kind of speech, says Leo C9X3J. I agree, I'm pro-free speech. Because if you can't express yourself right now, at least in this world, what are you going to do? It's very, very, very understandable that some governments and people in power want to crack down on free speech, claiming moral virtue, claiming kindness, that they're taking care of the lowly and oppressed. But eventually the tables will turn and it will become a totalitarian thing that's meant to just control the minds and the speech of people. And that has never, never been a good thing. So maybe you'll say that there are certain things you ought not say. There are consequences for the way that you speak. Yes, but to ban certain things, to say how you're allowed to talk and not allowed to talk, it's problematic to say the least. To say the least. Everyone deserves to be heard, he says. I agree, everyone deserves to be heard. Not to be agreed with, but deserves to be heard, at least, yes. With all due respect, you do need a few thick-skinned moderators. I don't think I do. I don't think I do. But then again, I don't know enough about YouTube to say, oh yeah, I definitely need moderators here, without a doubt, sure. I just think that if people are going to spam, they're going to spam. If they're going to talk shit, they're going to talk shit. If they're going to spread their bile and hate and malevolence, fine, cool. I'll give them the outlet. They need to get it out. If they don't get it out, it'll just sit there and rot inside of them. They need to get it out. Maybe, once they finally talk so much crap that they can't anymore, then they will be able to take a breath, pause, ground themselves, and listen. Not because I'm saying anything important, but just listen. That already can give you a lot. What the hell, says Cody Ritt. What the hell indeed, Cody? What the hell? We can do, D8 says, we can do without someone asking to shit on your chest. You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. The thing is that people have kinks. I'm not kink shaming, right? People have desires. I'm not going to say they can't do it. And he did ask, right? He didn't say, somebody ought to shit on your chest. He was respectful, man. He said, how would you feel? Something along those lines, meaning that he's considerate of my feelings, right? As a person. And some people want to have a hot, steaming, shit on their chest. I'm not one of them, but he doesn't know that. He was just asking, Tell us about that Talmud and the child molesting rules, says Joe Kaka or Sasa 4136. So, a lot of the Talmud does not make sense. A lot of the Talmud is used in bringing the extreme cases of a certain ruling or a debate on a ruling in order to make a generalized point. Meaning, from knowing the extreme of something and the boundaries of something, you're able to ascertain the middle ground that became halacha that people can follow. So, many times in the Talmud, you have very weird, borderline asinine claims that are being made in order to illustrate a point. Certain claims are being made in order to have a debate. And so you give the extreme on the left, and you give the extreme on the right, and then you have a middle ground. So it's not child molestation per se, but there are debates on when is puberty for the male, when is puberty for the female, when are you allowed to sleep with a girl, when are you allowed to sleep with a boy. These debates are ongoing in the Talmud, because these are extremes that were given in order to make a point and to sort of give the bookends of an argument. Now you could say that I'm just talking crap. Could be. I will say this. The oral Torah is a Torah that was not supposed to be written down. The oral Torah was supposed to remain oral. The oral Torah was supposed to move on right from father to son, mother to daughter, rabbi to pupil, master to apprentice. Always two there are. And you were supposed to have it walk and talk and live along with the progress of the generations. But because of exile, destruction, woe, and horror, they had to be written down lest they be forgotten. The oral traditions weren't even one singular tradition. This rabbi said this rabbi said that, this rabbi said that a different rabbi 200 years ago said this. And it's a debate, it's an ongoing debate from which you have a halacha for the masses. But that doesn't nullify precisely the other contentions and ideas and conceptualizations that were put forth in the debate. So, the Talmud does discuss things that would be considered child molestation these days, no doubt. But you need to understand the context, you need to understand the nuance, and you need to understand that a rabbi, no Orthodox rabbi nowadays, would say, oh, of course you can have sex if you're a grown man with a 3-year-old girl. Of course. No. They would say that the oral tradition was written down. That's not the path. That's not the way. It was supposed to be for the sake of argument, and it wasn't made into proper halacha. Even if it was at the time, 2,000 years ago, made into actual halacha, a man, a grown-ass man, is allowed to sleep with a 3-year-old girl if she did this and this and that, and she's showing signs of puberty. Let's say that that's the case. In the proper oral tradition, in the progress of the generations, that would be changed. That would be, oh, of course you can't. Obviously you can't. A 3-year-old can't give consent in the modern sense of the way, and so that is not the way. You see? The Torah does not dictate you have sex with a 3-year-old. The Talmud has a debate in which they say things about sexual relations with a 3-year-old. Now, whether you say it's to illustrate a point at the extreme to reach a middle point, or whether you say that that was actual halacha, nobody is saying that it's current modern-day halacha. What we're saying is that the Talmud was written down. Were it not written down, this is not the Torah that would be passed orally from father to son, mother to daughter, rabbi to pupil, master to apprentice. What would be passed down, presumably, is of age, consensually, right? I mean, look, the laws of sex, basically, in the Hebrew faith, the three main things are: it needs to be private, there needs to be consent, and don't do anything that degrades her unless she asks for it, right? That's a different story. So that's what I have to say, Joe Kaka or Sasa. Let's continue. When Torah was written, probably wasn't even 100, what, 100 100 million, says Light and Slim. Is that million? Stop paying attention to God and it will go away, says Threshold. Likely, right? There's speaking of Talmud, the Talmud says, with the divine revelation, right? What does it say? It says, if you leave me for 1 day, for 2 days I will be gone. In other words, if you take a step away, then the reflection is God taking a step away from you, right? In other words, it's sort of like to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Like in the laws of physics, in the Newtonian laws, in the same way, if you move, there's a motion that goes as well. So if you move aside for 1 day, what happens is that there's a 2 days separation. Im ta'azveni yom yomayim a'izveka. That's what it says. So if you're not interested in God, and if you stop paying attention to God, first of all, you need to conceptualize what God is for you, on a personal level. What are the values that you want to live by? How do you see God's revelation in your life, from the micro to the macro, right? From the ant and the grain of sand to the multiplicity of universes and trillions of galaxies. So it's right, the thread of creation runs through all of that, all of it, right? From the tiniest quark in the inner atom to the multiverse of multiverses. It's all one thread. If you stop paying attention to it, it'll go away, right? There is that idea that, I don't remember what teaching it is, what philosophy it is, that life is being generated as you are looking at it, much like the code in the Matrix is generated all the time, so you need to see it in code because there's not enough to decode it. In the very same way, when I look here, this reality is being created for me right now before my very eyes. The code is being written. And over there on my periphery, where I stop, there's a void. There is nothing. There is literally nothing behind my back. Even if I see it reflected, it's not truly there. What I'm seeing is a reflection. It might be an accurate reflection in some way, but it's not truly there. It's not real. It's just a pixelated reflection, right? And as I'm turning around, the world is being created as I'm turning. Just for me. Just right now. Just right here. There is that idea. So if you stop paying attention to something, then it stops paying attention to you in the same regard. There's that way of looking at it. Is it okay if you're not interested? Of course it's okay if you're not interested. You have free will. You have the power to decide what to do with your life. Matthew says, are you considered fringe in your Nazarite community? So there is no Nazarite community. The Nazarites are few and far between at all. Or are you a normal reflection? I mean, I'm unique in the sense of that I took on a couple of different things that are not part of the vow, things like veganism, things like staying away from all alcohol. I also don't wear a yarmulke, I don't wear a Jew hat, a skull cap, as they say. And the Nazarite rabbis that I have met, and I am no rabbi, the Nazarites that I have met do mostly, all the males anyway, wear a yarmulke, so I'm different in that. I'm more open, I suppose. I'm not a strict adherent to strict halacha. In that sense, I'm not fully Orthodox anymore either. I go, I went a little doing my own thing. Can you talk more about why you were distinguishing between a Jew and being a Hebrew? Look, there is a distinguishing factor and there's a non-distinguishing factor. Jew and Hebrew relate to the tribes of Israel. As such, the 12 tribes of Israel are the Jewish people, are the Hebrew people. Okay. Now, there's also what Jew is. Jew pertains to Judah, Judea, the kingdom of Judah, right? So it's a tribe, it's a kingdom, it's a location. Hebrew means that I associate more closely with being on one side and everybody else on the other side. That's what Ever means. Ever, Ivri, Hebrew comes from Ever. Ever is twofold. It's the grandson of Shem, son of Noah, named Ever, who had a yeshiva for a long time, they say. And it's also, we first encounter this noun, this name Ever, Ivri, Hebrew, with Avram before he became Abraham. It says, Vayavo hapalit vayaged le'Avram ha'ivri, right? The refugee came and told Avram the Hebrew. And I ask, what does it mean? Why was Avram called a Hebrew? So He continued the ways of Evil, so he was a Hebrew. And he crossed the river from one side to the other, so he was a Hebrew, meaning one to come across. And he was a Hebrew also for the third reason, that he was on one side with monotheism, and all of his other world before was on the other side with polytheism. And I sort of am all those things, right? So I'm a Jew, I'm an Israeli, I'm a Zionist, I'm a Hebrew, I'm all right. I'm all of those things. That's why I distinguish in some cases. But Hebrew and Jew mean the same thing, right? A Jew is part of the people of the Hebrews. A Hebrew is part of the nation of the Jews. But Jew is just one kingdom, the kingdom of Judah. That's Benjamin, right? Benjamin, Judah, and parts of Levi, or Levi. And that's not all of them. We have 10 lost tribes, or some of them are not lost. So it's debated, if they are, if they aren't. Shake your dreads, says Cranchberry. There, I shook my dreads. How do you feel now? Jonah says, don't forget also supporter of genocide. Look, the only genocide that's going on is between the Muslim world, the Arab world over here, and the Hebrew people. If it was true that Israel was committing a genocide, then we suck at it, because the Palestinian population has been growing all the time throughout the entirety of the occupation. So you're wrong statistically, like numerically. You're wrong in the sense that genocide means you need to have intent, and we don't have that intent. If we had that intent, we would wipe out Gaza in a week from everybody. We wouldn't give humanitarian aid. We wouldn't try and bring people here for medical treatment from Gaza. Look it up. You'll see that I'm right. And I am a supporter of self-defense against terrorism and people who want to kill me in an actual genocide. Yes, I support the IDF. I served in the IDF for many, many years in mandatory service and in the reserves until a few years ago. And I am a proud supporter of the IDF. However, I'm not a blind supporter of the IDF. The IDF makes mistakes. Individual soldiers make mistakes. The government makes mistakes. The state of Israel makes mistakes. The establishment makes mistakes. Does that negate their entire existence? No. It's why we have rules, laws, regulations put in place. Soldiers are being thrown in jail. Soldiers are being put in prison. Soldiers are being found guilty, indicted of crimes they committed where it ought to have not been done. Some soldiers get off scot-free. So it depends on what you want to look at. You can bring cases on both sides. So the only genocide that's actually going on, provable genocide throughout history, is the wars against the Jews, the wars against the state of Israel, and there were pogroms and things going on way, way before the state of Israel was even a thing. So spare me, truly. Oh, like taking the West Bank, says Chronic Cultivator. The West Bank belonged to Jordan from 1948 to 1967. Why didn't Jordan make a Palestinian state? Why isn't anyone saying that for 20 years it was the Jordanians who were oppressing the poor Palestinian people? Really? Really? It's funny how only since the war of 1967, that we didn't start, by the way, we took action, but we didn't start it. Right? We had a preemptive strike on the air forces of the Arab nations around us and their army. So basically, what you're saying is that we took the West Bank. We took it through a war that we didn't start. Every country on earth has done that. You don't get to start a war and then bitch and moan and complain that you lost. You do not get to start a war of annihilation and then cry victim, spare me your tears. If you actually had any compassion towards the Palestinian people, you would be here over there. And I don't even know where you're from, but you would be here. And I'm guessing that you're not. I might be wrong. Maybe you are literally right now in Gaza, working for humanitarian relief, taking care of the sick, sacrificing your time. Could be. And if you are, more power to you. Because there are people there who need compassion, who need peace and love, and who need to not be oppressed by their own government, their own religious, fanatic, extremist, warmongering government of Hamas. Free Palestine from Hamas. Free it from the religious extremism. Free it from radical fucking assholes. I'm also for de-radicalizing Israel and defanging the religious extremist element here as well. Definitely. But to say we took the West Bank is a bunch of crap, because by that token you could say that Egypt took Gaza and Jordan took the West Bank. They were under their control for 20 years after the state of Israel came to pass. Did they do anything? No. But nobody is saying anything about that. They could have raised the Palestinian flag. They didn't. They could have liberated the Palestinian people. They didn't. They could have proclaimed East Jerusalem, which was under Jordanian rule, to be the capital of eternal Palestine. They didn't do shit. So spare me the BS. History speaks for itself. Now, you could say that I'm full of crap. By all means do. Show me. Show me how I'm full of crap. Now, I will grant this. There are certain settlements that are illegally being set up. Illegal as far as the world is concerned. Possibly on the backs of those who live there. I agree. There are fringe settlements that are debated and that need to maybe have, right, there needs to be a kind of agreement. And that might be illegal. And it might be immoral. And it might be unethical. But those are fringe settlements. And you can't take the fringe and make and cast aspersions and accusations on the general population. Because really, that's not the way to go in any discussion. So we didn't take the West Bank. We took it back from Egypt. And we took Gaza back from Egypt. We took the West Bank back from Jordan, who were oppressing the poor Palestinians way before. So, no. You know what's up, says Eric. Thanks, man. Look, I don't know what's up. I have my lived experience. I have history. I have what I've been told, which might be crap. I have what I see and what I hear. Now, I'm biased. I'm an Israeli living in Jerusalem. Of course, I have my biases. I try not to have too much confirmation bias. I try to let things speak for themselves. I don't take the government's words as gospel. I don't take the IDF's bulletins as truth. I take it as something that I'm being told. And by the time I'm being told it, it's already propaganda. I know this going in. I am being propagandized by the Israeli government. I, the Israeli citizen. Of course I am, which is why I don't follow the news. Now that the war is almost over, I don't follow the news at all. I was more into it back then. And that's why I take everything with a grain of salt, and I understand that my government and my army are telling me certain things to cultivate a certain narrative, so I'll think a certain way about a certain situation. But it's all propaganda. It's all with an agenda. It's all passed through a censorship board, an editing board. It's all been manufactured and engineered in order for me to have a specific opinion about what it is that I am seeing here in the world. I know that going in. Then again, I also have my own experiences. Then again, I also have the way that I look at the world as a sovereign individual. And I try to be as fair as I can, as objective as I can. I fail in doing so. I have my preconceived notions. But I try not to let the stereotypes get to me. I try not to be a racist. I try not to be a bigot. I try to see things as they are and call them as I see them, for better or worse. Take the salt with a grain of news. There you go. I should be doing that. History needs to repeat itself with all of you, says Jonah. Well, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. That's very, very, very true. Finding Ferrari says, Guy never answers questions, just ends up talking to himself. Sorry, Finding Ferrari, the chat is going through in such a fast rate. I'm not able to take every question. Sorry, dude. Sorry for the belches. So Ferrari, please ask again. I'll try and catch it. Or other people, copy and paste his question from before. If more people catch it, I'll be able to see it in the chat. What are your thoughts, says Matthew. Are you Jewish, Sister T.S.? Yes, I am Jewish. Josh says, Leviticus says slavery is permitted. You condone slavery. Once again, this is one of those things that was around at the time, but not necessarily would it be around now. Right? Also, slaves were meant to be freed. Hebrew slaves were meant to be freed. Hebrew handmaids were meant to be freed. So the Torah condones slavery. And it says if you're going to have a slave, do it this way. But it doesn't say you ought to have slaves. It's the thing to do. There's no commandment to take on slaves. It simply says if you are going to take on slaves, here's how to treat them. Here's when they are set free. Here's what happens. Here are the laws. Here are the halachas. That's what that means. In the very same way that the Torah has laws for when you get divorced. But does that mean that you should get divorced just to fulfill the commandment of getting divorced with a get? Obviously not. If you're married to the love of your life, by all means, stay married. You're not going to say, I want to fulfill the Torah, in all of the commandments. Therefore, I will get divorced just so I can do it properly and fulfill the commandment of getting divorced like that with a get. That would be preposterous and ridiculous to think that you get divorced to fulfill the commandment. Obviously. It just means if you're gonna get divorced, here's how you go about it. In the very same way, you should not have slaves. People were meant to be free. All humans were made in the image of God. We all have the capacity, the potential, the duty, some say, to reflect the divine image, to personify, right, the revelation of God through our speech, through our actions, through our dealings and doings in the world, with each other, with nature. But to say that you ought to have slaves and it's the way to go, hell no. We were made to be free. The Torah is very clear about that. It simply says, if you're going to have slaves, here's the way you go about it. It condones slavery in that sense. No, I don't deny that there was slavery of foreigners. Of course there was slavery of foreigners. You were allowed to have slaves from the foreigners and the nations around you, and you did not set them free after 6 years. On the 7th year, you did not. That belonged only to the Hebrew handmaid and the Hebrew slave. So people at the time of the Bible and the Torah, right? They had slaves for life, sometimes multi-generational. But I still don't think that the Torah is advocating for you to go and do it premeditated, yes, this is the way to go, this is the righteous thing to do. It just means at a time when slavery was everywhere, the Torah says you need to treat them properly. You need to treat them properly, whether they are Hebrew or foreigners, by the way. You're not allowed to mistreat your slaves, foreign or Hebrew. So if it's your brother or your sister, you set them free after 7 years. If they want to stay, you set them free at the Jubilee, the 50th year, whenever it comes, relative to when they took on the agreement to remain slaves. And if you have a foreigner from the nations who you take on as a slave, even if it's multi-generational, the Torah doesn't say it's a commandment. The Torah does not say you must. So you're wrong. I don't deny that in Leviticus it says that. Who denied that? See, you're making a lot of assumptions, not you personally, some people here are making a ton of assumptions based on their preconceived notions of what I might think. But unless you ask, you won't know. I don't deny the things that are written in the Torah. I simply say that my focus is on the peace, love, justice, righteousness, and truth that is in the Torah. And you have the slavery and the raping and the killing there too. But what is it that you choose to give your focus to? What is it that you choose to be a part of? What is it that you choose to be associated with? Which is why I say, yes, I'm a cherry picker. I cherry pick every verse. I cherry pick every word. I cherry pick every halacha. I cherry pick all day long. I'm a cafeteria Hebrew. But I try to get it right to the degree that I can. And I have a long way to go. I'm no idealist. Right? I understand that the ideal is always moving away from me. So I'm an idealist in the sense that I'm pursuing it, but I'm not an idealist in the sense that that's it and nothing will. No, I'm always in motion. It's always in motion. Let's continue. Threshold says, I believe this, I believe that, I believe a big fat rat. Well, Ratatouille had a big fat rat. If I'm not mistaken, there were several big fat rats. And that was a fun movie. I believed him. Controlling the dude with his hair, like with the dreads. Martin says, Abraham, no one knows what you're talking about. I disagree, Martin. Oh, I'm sorry. If it was someone in the chat named Abraham, forgive me. If you're talking about me, my name is not Abraham, it's Jonathan, but I get the sentiment. Third, some people know what I'm talking about. Other people don't. But the idea is to have the discourse, to have the back and forth, and if you have a question, by all means ask. I will try to address it. Matthew says, you mentioned you differ from your companions in that you're vegan and don't wear a kippah. Are these both decisions driven by your own exploration of faith, and do you care to share about them? So, yes, the kippah, first of all, the hair of the Nazarite, right, is the crown of consecration. The head of the Nazarite man or woman is consecrated, as it says in Numbers 6. And so I won't put a skull cap above the crown, right? I want to wear it like a crown. I want it to be a kind of crown that I wear that is consecrated. It's part of what sets me apart. So I'm not going to put a piece of fabric and by doing that negate what it says in the Torah, right? The Nazarite's hair is from the Torah. The kippah, skull cap, Jew hat, head covering for men is something that's very, very, very recent, relatively speaking. That's why I don't do that. Second of all, the kippah throughout the generations has been made a tool of vanity, arrogance, judgment, infighting, division, and just blech. So I don't do that at all. And my kids, who are not Nazarites, don't wear a kippah either, for that reason. As for veganism, I was vegetarian before I took my vow. I took the Samson Nazarite vow, and a Samson Nazarite is allowed to be defiled by dead. Though I try still not to attend any funerals and be near corpses and whatnot, but I took my vow back when I was still an active field medic in the reserves, in the IDF. And since I was a field medic, I knew that there was a chance that I will come into contact with a dead human. And I didn't want to make a vow of a Nazarite, like in Numbers, which means that I would be putting myself in a situation that's compromising the vow in some way. So I decided to take on the Samson vow, which in time I realized is the better vow for me. A, it's for life. B, there's no cutting of the hair. C, you have an allowance to be defiled by the dead, because a Samson Nazarite retains his or her Nazariteship even through contact with a dead body. So, I still wanted, though, to sanctify life, like it says that the Nazarite should by abstaining from death. The other side of that is sanctifying life. So from being vegetarian 15 years ago when I took my vow, I became vegan. The future for me is probably raw veganism, though I don't know when that will take place. So that's a little bit about my veganism and about the non-kippah wearing. I hope that that addresses it a little bit. Okay. Scott Chambers says, wish you could talk about life and not beliefs. Listen, this channel is about faith, spirituality, religion, and self-development. So forget all of the other stuff, right? Self-development is life. We are put here to be better than who we are. We are put here to elevate ourselves, physically, metaphysically, mentally, spiritually, right? Emotionally, whatever. We were put here to discover and to be more, right? To discover who we are and how we can be more. So that's how I see it, and that's how I approach life. As I said, I'm failing at this all the time, but that's what I'm aiming for, to become better. A better person, a better father, a better husband, a better uncle, a better nephew, a better grandson, a better son. So that's something that can be done whether you believe in God or not, whether you're religious or not. It takes a little bit of insight into yourself, self-reflection. You need to sometimes take on a discipline, and this is what religion is good for, because it's a discipline. Now, maybe you'll break away later, but if you put yourself into a path, a way, right, a discipline, it can teach you a lot about yourself, a ton, really a ton. Have you ever thought about believing in nothing, says Romans 3:10. Yes, I have. I've considered nihilism in the classic sense, like the philosophical sense. I've considered solipsism in the sense that there's only me and just me and nothing else truly exists. That's a little psychopathic as far as I'm concerned, or social or sociopathic to be played out in my life on a grand long run scale. So I have thought about believing in nothing. I have considered it as objectively as I can. I found it wanting. I found it lacking. I found that I am drawn to spirituality like a moth to a flame. I am drawn by curiosity, by just my natural, innate curiosity. Why are things the way they are? Why am I the way I am? Those two questions have been driving me my whole life. Seeking answers, finding answers, having more questions. Certain questions have been answered for life. And certain things I'm still pondering, and certain things I'm still discovering. And with the Torah, what's beautiful and wonderful, like full of wonder about the Torah, is that the more you immerse yourself in it, the more the gates open up, right? So there's always more to do, and there's always more to see, and there's always more to discover, and there are always things that you can take in and assimilate and integrate. You can always expand your mind, expand your consciousness, the way that you view the world, the way that you act in the world. That's what the Torah is here for, right? So let's see. Threshold says, I took psychedelics and all of a sudden I became uninterested in believing in anything and not believing in anything for that matter. Well, you know what? The psychedelic trips that I've taken, I've done some LSD, I've done some MDMA, I've done some mushrooms, I've done some herb. All of those are psychedelic substances. I'm of the opinion that any psychedelics that you have in your life, the bulk of your psychedelics mind-expanding experiences should be ones that come from within and not from without. But if you're going to take mushrooms, herb, MDMA, LSD, synthetic and organic alike, first treat them with respect, set and setting, all of that. And if you're going to do that, and you're going to find out things about yourself you may not want to know, and you say that it was all of a sudden, then maybe if you integrate it properly, then that's what you were told. So go with that. Go with that. With a psychedelic experience, you get what you put in. Set and setting. If your mindset is in one thing, that's what you'll get back. If you're in a certain setting that's not cool, that's probably what you'll get back. And belief is a very fluid thing. Faith is a very fluid thing, which is why it's still debated up until these days. Is it enough for a Hebrew person to just performatively carry out the commandments, or is he or she, is it incumbent on them to have faith and to believe? And I recently had a live stream on Rambam's Maimonides' 13 Principles of Faith, and whether or not Rambam himself mandates faith. He said, yes, you must believe in these things. Faith is a prerequisite of being a Torah-following Jew. And other people saying, no, you don't need to believe in anything inside. You need to carry out the commandments on the outside, even if you don't believe in anything on the inside. Because even if you just do it performatively, that already is enough. In Judaism, is there a forbidden fruit? Light and Slim says, well, look, there's the forbidden fruit in the story of creation. And there's forbidden fruit in the sense of you have, let's say, fruit of a tree that's under 3 years old. You're not allowed to partake of the fruit. On the 4th year, you take all the fruit to Jerusalem and you eat it there. And from the 5th year onward, you can partake of the fruit and it's all good. On the other hand, you have forbidden fruit if it's supposed to be of the tithe that goes to the temple and it has not been tithed, then you're not allowed to eat from it. That's forbidden fruit. And if you're a Nazarite, you're not allowed to partake of anything from the grape, and that's forbidden fruit. Incidentally, there are those who say, the Zohar and maybe others, Midrash, who say that the forbidden fruit, the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, was in fact grapes, and that's why the Nazarite is supposed to abstain from it. We also see that Noah, when he first goes out of the ark, the first thing he does is plants a vineyard, which echoes back to Eden, right? So, yes. Love you, brother, says Scott Chambers. I appreciate that, man. Much love from Jerusalem. I just want to give it back. You know what I'm saying? Just want to give it back. Martin says, why do you believe Jesus Christ is not God and died on the cross for your sins? I want to hear your point of view. So my point of view of Jesus is that he's not God. He's a potential Messiah, a potential sage, a potential prophet, all those things. But he died. And when he died just like any other man. He probably died in righteousness as a Hebrew man, right? And that's it in Jerusalem. That's all it is. I believe Jesus Christ is not God. He's not Christ. Christ means anointed one. I don't believe he's the Messiah. He could have been, but he died. He wasn't king. He could have been, but he died. As for not God, we are not allowed to have a God incarnate in the Torah. The Torah says there will be no God incarnate. Remember that at the assembly of Sinai, says Moses, you only heard a revelation of a voice. You saw no image. There is no image of God. We are the image of God. We are but an image, a reflection. There is no God incarnate, meaning that God cannot be in a human body. There can be revelations and influences, reflections, but not an actual creator in a human body. No such thing. We manifest the divine revelation through us, definitely. We are human beings made in God's image, but it's in God's image. We are not God. We are like God in the sense that we too create life. So do other mammals. So do viruses. We procreate, right? So, as for him dying on the cross for my sins, I don't believe anything of the sort. I believe we all die for our sins. That's the way that it goes. I don't think he died for me. I don't think he's the Messiah. I don't think he's my Lord or Savior or Son of God in any way. I think he was probably a very, very great sage. He may have died in righteousness. He may have led himself astray later, depending on what take you go by. But altogether speaking, he seems to be a good man who did a lot of good, spoke to the masses, was very humble, had many traits that I would love to follow. And it could very well be that if I was around at the time, I would have followed him myself around Jerusalem, calling him master. But he's dead. He's dead and he's not coming back. All right, there will be a resurrection when we partake of the fruit of the tree of life, right? Put under guard, not forbidden. However, Jesus is dead. And he is not coming back. And even if we say that there was a resurrection, which does have a precedent in the Hebrew Bible, we still did not worship those resurrected as God. We don't worship Eliyahu, who was taken away, Hanoch, who was taken away, as God. But people say that Jesus is God, and in that sense they veer so much away from the Torah that I say, nope, that's not my way. My path is the path of the Torah, the path of the law of Moses. And that's why I'm saying that that's how I would treat Jesus. Not as Christ, not as somebody who died for my sins, just as plain old Yeshua. Okay, let's see. Joe Watt says the missing body was corroborated. Oh, sorry. The missing body was corroborated by the Pharisees who claimed that it was stolen right in front. Oh, okay. I'm not even, again, he could have been resurrected 3 days later. There is a precedent in the Hebrew Bible for resurrection. Elisha did it, Eliyahu did it, right? Elijah and Elisha. There is resurrection in the Hebrew Bible. There's also the idea in the story of creation of partaking of the fruit of the tree of life eventually. And that is the great last resurrection, let's say, when death itself will be taken away, right? The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death, like it says on the tombs of Lily and James Potter. So, I do believe in the eventual resurrection as such, a unified human race going back to Eden, partaking of the fruit of the tree of life, the angel of death, let's say, being slain, death being taken away from the world, and us beginning humanity phase 2, truly living after Eden, right? We were kicked out of Eden. We still have a job to do there. But I don't deny that it could be that he was dead and came back. There's no problem there. Worshipping him as God, that's a problem. Saying that he is some sort of God incarnate, that's a problem. See what I mean? So I will even say, yes, he was resurrected by God himself. So he's just a resurrected person. It happened before. There was no big whoop. Let's continue. Back to starting exploration of Jewish faith. What if a Jewish person has no access to a teacher or master to start? If you could only offer one resource, would you simply recommend Genesis? No, I would simply recommend what Hillel the sage at the time of the second trial, the Gentile who wanted to... Oh, it glitched. Am I back? I think it glitched. The Gentile who wanted to be converted came before Hillel, and he said, "Teach me the entire Torah as I stand on one foot." And this is what he told him. He said, "What you hate, don't do unto your fellow man." That is the entirety of the Torah. The rest of it is commentary. Go and learn it. So what I would say is, the first thing you do is what you don't do, which is what you don't do to your fellow man, right? What you hate, don't do unto others. That golden rule, right? The second thing I would say is talk to God like I'm talking to you right now, every single day. What's called hitbodedut, seclusion. Have time and place. It can be a fixed time and place. It can be a spontaneous time and place. I engage in this every single day, speaking to you just like I'm speaking to God, just like I'm speaking to you now, talking to myself, getting to know who I am. That's what I would say. That's how you should approach Judaism. The rest will be revealed to you in time. Also, when the student is ready, the master will appear. Also, don't remember, you can have masters that are dead, learn from their teachings. It's better to have a master who is alive and who's with you, will look you in the eye, someone who you have a connection with, a deep connection with, who you share your secrets and your ongoings with, right? So. I'm a clam, says Romans 3:10. A clam, are you? That's interesting. Gavin says, you're not even an Israelite. You're a white guy who kind of looks like an Arab and got dreadlocks. You're not a Nazarite. Stop trying to be Samson. Well, first of all, I took the vow of a Nazarite of Samson, so I'm a Samson Nazarite by vow. Second of all, I'm an Israelite because I live in Israel and I was born and raised in Israel. Second of all, I'm a white guy. According to some, I'm a white guy. According to white people, I'm a Middle Eastern guy. But I was born and raised in the Middle East, and that's why I kind of look like an Arab, because I do have some sort of Arabia inside of me, I'm sure. And I got dreadlocks, yes. So yes, no. I think I addressed everything you said. Cool. Gavin Walnut, please back up your claim. Please back it up. If you're going to say all those things, I'm not saying you're wrong. I said my piece. By all means, a rebuttal. Why is it that I'm not an Israelite? Why is it that I'm a white guy, whatever that means? What is it that I kind of look like an Arab? I know what I have dreadlocks. And why is it that I'm not a Nazarite? And why should I stop trying to be Samson? Please, I would love to know more. Give me all you got. What did Al Pacino write in Heat? Give me all you got. Okay. Threshold says talking to the locals in the West Bank is like talking to rabid dogs. Well, look, that's a broad generalization. There are good people and bad people wherever you go. The thing is that people over there are indoctrinated by a very, very violent and extreme form of Islam. Now, you can make the argument that Islam, by definition, is violent and extreme, sure. But we see in the world that there are places in the world where the Muslims are much more moderate. And you could say, oh yes, but any real, right, the real Scotsman fallacy, any real Muslim would say that they're doing it wrong. You know the real Scotsman fallacy? Look it up. Point is, I'm sure many people know it. Point is, some people are like rabid dogs on the Israeli side as well. Some people are just looking who to bite, just like on that side as well. There's extremism on both ends. There's radicalism, right? Radical behavior, radical doctrines, radical thought, radical speech on both ends. We need to defang both of these serpents. We need to take out the poison, and then we can build a bridge to peace. Then we can find common ground. People at the bell curve, at the extreme of the bell curve, are having so much power, and they're so loud, and they're such a vocal minority, but they are a minority. I believe that if you take down Hamas, and if you instill, let's say in Gaza and the West Bank, a peace-loving partner that's truly peace-loving, that will be able to acknowledge that the Hebrew people are here to stay, and nobody's going anywhere on either side, so let's work it out. Then you will have somebody to work with. And then the rabid dogs will keep on barking, but the situation will be a lot clearer. And there you can make peace. There you can have understanding. Then you can make an agreement and a covenant between the people, right? We are cousins, Israel and Ishmael. Traditionally, we are cousins. Okay. Does genocide give you a stiffy, asks Systematic Taxation, UFO proxy limp? Many things give me an erection. Genocide has never given me a stiffy. But, you know, there are times where I'm like a teenager and all it takes is a light breeze, and I'm good to go. I have a lot of sexual energy, and I'm a very sexual person. But to get an erection from genocide, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no, but I'm not ruling it out in the future. In fact, genocide, because the only genocide that's actually being perpetrated is against my people right here, other genocides in the world, but between the Palestinians and the Jews here, it's against us and not them, but let's even say that it's against them, it does not give me a stiffy. Lots of other things do give me a stiffy. I love a good morning wood. Half quest, what about when Jews are genociding Gazans? We are not. If we actually wanted genocide, the war would have been over in a few days, and it wasn't. And the population of Gaza keeps growing because there's no genocide. And we are looking for a partner in peace there because genocide means you need to have intent, and we do not have intent. We are acting in self-defense because people all around us want to kill us because we're not Muslim. That's all this is. It's a religious war. It's a spiritual war. It's not about territory. It's not about land. It's not about a settlement. It's not about any of that. It's about Islam wanting to control the world, and it's about Jews wanting to be left alone, and it's about the clash of the people who are indoctrinated by religion, extremists, warmongering radicals on both sides. That's what it's about. All right, I think I might say goodbye. Soon. Let's go soon. Robot Lover says, do you know Kabbalah? Well, I'm a student of the Tree of Life, but I'm not a Kabbalist. I've been studying Kabbalah ever since I'm 16, and I got into different teachings in different stages in my life. So do I know it? No. As far as I'm concerned, what I'm learning is the introduction of introductions to introductions. That's always how I phrase it, because that's really what I feel. The depth and the breadth of the Kabbalah, of the proper Hebrew Kabbalah, is something that's so vast, I need to expand my mind a lot more to say, but do I know Kabbalah? What's to know it? Kabbalah means to receive. Have I received Kabbalah? I can say yes. Do I know Kabbalah? No, I am not a Kabbalist. I'm a student of the Tree of Life. I've always been, ever since I'm 16, a student of the Tree of Life. I try to go according to its lore and its teachings with humility, right? Humility being the top of the pyramid there, the top sphira of the Tree of Life. So I don't consider myself a Kabbalist in any way, but I am a student of the Tree of Life, that's for sure. Matthew says, I'm making roasted vegetables with pomegranate vinegar with an herb stuffing and mushroom gravy. That sounds really, really good. So, for instance, pomegranate vinegar is allowed. Wine vinegar is not allowed for the Nazarite, right? So any red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, balsamic vinegar, anything that comes from the grape, but things that are used mainstream in the, let's say, culinary arts, things like grain vinegar, things like pomegranate vinegar, and other fermented things are allowed. Rice vinegar also allowed. The only vinegar that is not allowed is vinegar of grape origin or that has grape origin vinegar in it. So those are not allowed. Is Epstein your wet dream? No, I don't know a lot about Epstein. I know he's dead. I know that there's a lot being brought against him. The Epstein files, all these accusations. He was killed. He died. I don't know. Is he my wet dream? No. My wet dream... That's too graphic for me to say here on the air. I might get into it another time, but I won't subject you. I won't subject you to my inner sexual world right now. Maybe another time. Billy rocked your world. Did you now, Billy? Oh my. You rocked my world? Said hi. Hello to you. Never heard of him, huh? I mean, I have heard of him, but that's all. I don't follow the news. I don't know what happened. None of it. So I really, really don't know. Thank you for your time, says Matthew. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. On that note, I think I am going to go. It's been 2.5 hours. My word. See, word, that phrase, my word, came from the book of John, right, in the gospel, right, that God is the word, the flesh, but I still use it because it's a figure of speech. But when I say my word, right, it's that revelation of voice, a revelation of speech that is also a revelation of God. So I don't mean it in the Christian sense of God becoming flesh. I mean it as a revelation to those who would nitpick what I'm saying. So my word, it's been such a long time, almost 2.5 hours. This has been such a blessing. Such a blessing. I don't take any of it for granted. That I can sit here in the middle of the day in Jerusalem, the sun is shining, I have a cup of water here that I haven't used, but I should. L'chaim, to life. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. To say a prayer, a blessing before you partake of sustenance, to bring the spiritual and the physical together. That's what that's about. That's what the Hebrew life is about. That's what Torah is about. So you guys out there, I appreciate your time, your kind and gentle attention, your engagement in the chat. You enlighten me, you enliven me, you help me keep me, standing on, you help me to stay on my toes, you help me to formulate my arguments, you help and challenge me, and I appreciate that, and I cherish the discourse, the trolls, the ones who are actually talking, the ones who come, book, and what is that, and swipe up or down. The likes, the subs, the views, everything that has to do with that technical side of YouTube and the channel. I really do appreciate every single one of you. I don't take it for granted. It's not a small thing that you take time out of your day, certainly on a holiday, for those who it's Christmas for. You take time, and time is a precious thing. So I hope my words and rants and rambles and armpit farts were of benefit to you. I hope it was of some value. If not, then I hope it was at least of some entertainment, because that's also what I'm shooting for here. It's the Nazarite, bringing your Hebrew lore from days of yore, no more, no less. It's all what I think and what I regurgitate. I'm not claiming to hold any great truth, no great wisdom. I just call it like I see it. Things change in the world. I try to roll with them. I try to speak the truth as I perceive it in that time and place. I'm just a dumbass in the Middle East trying to make sense of this life, That's all that this is. And I thank you for partaking of this lovely afternoon here in Jerusalem with me. It's beautiful. It's wonderful that we are doing this raw, live, in your face, with all of its faults and all of its problems. It's something I love doing. I love engaging. People could say, you're talking to yourself. Yes, a person who doesn't talk to themselves knows themselves that much less. You need to talk to yourself a little. You need to figure things out, and that means uttering it. Things can't stay bottled in. Take them out, right? When you speak something out into the world, you create a vessel. And then something can be poured into that vessel. So you need to create that cup, right, to be filled. And then, yes, your cup will be running over. Spirituality, development, self-development, right? Individually and as humans. Faith, religion, psychology, underarm farts. We talk about it all in this channel, and I don't take it for granted. And I thank you. I deeply thank you for your time and your kind attention. Have a wonderful holiday. Have a wonderful day. God willing, I will see you at another live stream tomorrow or the next day. I'm not sure. Until then, I'm going to go, and it will go private, but a minute later it will go public. So hit me up in the comments. I'll be able to answer in the next hour or so. I'll be answering comments. So leave one if you want. And That's it. Goodbye from Jerusalem. Goodbye. I'll see you on the next live stream.